In a tiny apartment in Southern California, two college dropouts teamed up to start a watch brand that broke all the rules. With clean, innovative designs, unexpected colors, and unbeatable value, Movement became the fastest-growing watch brand in the world. Every bold, modern design is dreamed up at Movement's California headquarters. And now everything is on sale for their 9th birthday celebration. You can save big with 25% discounts on watches, jewelry, sunnies, blue light eyewear, and more lifestyle essentials. And for the first time this year, Movement's best-selling, innovatively made ceramic watches are on sale too. Elevate your own look or give someone an amazing gift that won't break the bank, but looks like it did. There's never been a better time to join the movement. Get the best prices of the year with Movement's site-wide 25% off anniversary sale and enjoy free shipping, free returns, and a 2-year guarantee on everything they make. Just go to mvmt.com. That's mvmt.com.
Only at Metro by T-Mobile, you can upgrade to 5G and get more savings with the lowest price on one line of unlimited 5G. Just $40, period. That's it, taxes and fees included. Plus, more choices with the largest selection of free 5G phones from brands you love, like Samsung. Switch and save more, only at Metro. Lowest price versus major national prepaid brands. The fraction of users greater than 35 gigabytes per month may notice reduced speeds, and Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus T-Mobile due to prioritization. Video streams and SD requires eligible port-in and plan. See store for details.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
How's it going, everybody? This is Mike Sempervive of Wrestling Observer Live in the Adam and Mike Big Audio Nightmare, located over at WrestlingObserver.com. We want you to listen to our show, but we thank you very much for checking out Keeping It Strong Style here on the Social Suplex Radio Network.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keeping It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review the first 2 nights of G1 Climax 32 and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com. With features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and share playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, here we are. G1 Climax 32 has kicked off. I think this is what our 5th or 6th G1 we're covering.
Yeah, no one cares about that, Jeremy. Enough with the yip yap. It's G1 season. Let's get to it. Come on, let's go. Let's go. No, I'm just playing. I don't know. We started the show late 2017, so 18, 19, 20, 21. This is our 5th G1. Half a decade of dominance, of destruction.
The streak. Oh, man. But yeah.
No, I'm glad to be on the show this week. The G1's here. a little different. We did an awesome preview last week. But you know what's weird? I usually feel like by the time we start this episode, like we're jumping into it, we're already like at least 3 nights in, maybe more. And we're only 2 nights in, and they were like kind of lighter, like, you know, because later we're going to have more matches per evening. And, you know, these early nights, just like 4 little, you know, kind of pick me ups or whatever. So kind of feel like it's only kind of started. And we've gotten a pretty lengthy pause between tomorrow, which is night 3.
Yeah, at this point, the beginning of the tournament seems to be spaced out well. Like you mentioned, this weekend shows were very easy to watch, and then with the break yesterday and today, that was pretty good. But I know things will heat back up. And you know, you mentioned the preview last week. We did have our friend Chris Samsa on the show to preview the show with us, and
our friend Chris Samsa.
he was of course on Sleeper J Cast also
as a business associate. As just an acquaintance, purely an acquaintance. That was a business transaction. This here is where the heart and soul really takes place.
But did you see that they were proposing either we have split custody of Chris, or we do some kind of gimmick match, a Samsa on a pole match, or I suggested, you know, for New Japan audience, we'd have to do a dog cage match.
No, I actually I almost always listen to JCast, but I listened to last week's episode after he came on our show, and I thought, I thought the show he did with Damon was really good. In fact, I was wondering to myself, like, did we not interview like Chris enough when we first had him on our show? Like, they were getting like into the deep histories of like Chris, and I was like, I feel like we just talked about like that he liked Nakamura Ibushi, and that was about it.
I don't remember.
Like, all right, let's go.
I'll have to go back to the very first time we had Chris on, which must have been what, 2 or 3 years ago now.
Maybe we need to like increase our interviewing skills or freshen up on that. I don't know. I feel like, you know, within moments, you know, Damon was able to get to the heart of him. And like I said last week, Damon's also the individual who, with one question, reduced Will Ospreay to tears. So something he's doing that we're not. I don't know.
He's got the magic touch.
Yeah, he's got the gift of gab.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely.
Here's the people's souls.
Yeah, definitely a good interview there on JCast. So if you want to learn more about Chris Samsa and just kind of his journey into following New Japan, all that stuff, definitely check out that episode from last week. But let's get into our G1 coverage for this week. So, of course, things kicked off with the press conference that always happens before tournament action kicks off. We got to see all the pictures of all the fits, and we had a question here from MJ Does PR. Who had the best fit of the press conference, and why was it Ishii?
You know, Ishii does always look pretty fly at the press conferences, does he not?
Oh, yeah, because I remember when we were there for the G1 29 press conference in Dallas, that man, great suit on, the shoes look good, like the sunglasses, like that man was dressed to the nines, as they would say.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. This year I got busy. I didn't watch the press conference. I read a few like excerpts of comments and interesting like tidbits, but yeah, I didn't watch it. I'm sure you did, probably.
No, I did not watch the whole press conference.
Oh wow!
I did see like some of the highlights of some of the funnier ones, or the ones that you know, kind of the more important ones, but I didn't watch it from beginning to end.
Bro, the way I get away with not watching it is because I know you're going to, so I'm good. If we're both gonna not watch it, then you know that's not very professional, bro. You need to like cover it with me if you're not gonna watch something, and then that way I can give you permission. No, I did see you know, some of the more ludicrous ones, like Filthy Tom Lawler came out in all denim get up with like a denim bucket hat, which is like, what the fuck is he doing? Will Ospreay looked like a drug dealer, not in a good way. Like, he had this giant, I don't know, fur mink coat or some shit. Like, bro, it's summer in Japan. Why are you wearing fur?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm looking at the picture now. I'm pretty sure Ishii is wearing the exact same thing he wore in Dallas a couple of years ago, or something very similar.
I'm trying to find it, but Rock Hard Juice Robinson literally raided Ed Leslie's like closet and came dressed up like the disciple.
Yeah.
Which is dope. Everyone looks pretty good, you know.
Zack Sabre wearing the shorts.
Well, you know, him and Pat McAfee, they have that in common. Yeah. You know who looks really fly is Sonata. Always looks good.
Yeah.
When it comes to like dressing up and stuff. No, Ishii is. I see him there. He is in a white getup, and that is a different fit than what he wore to the United States, which, you know, is good because you don't want to be caught dead wearing the same thing to the press conference, you know, multiple years in a row.
Yeah, but I feel it's very similar though.
No, it's not actually.
It's not? Okay.
No. But yeah, look at Fale. He like quasi dressed up. Remember, he just wore like a t-shirt and like some gym shorts. Like he was on that Kevin Owen live that one time.
Yeah, kind of wearing the pay me, pin me, or whatever, pin me, pay me shirt or whatever.
Some shit like that. But yeah. I mean, I listened enough to hear what everyone had to say, or not listened, but like read enough to kind of get the gist of it. I was just like, you know, it's a G1 press conference, 28 guys, like, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right, well, let's jump into the 2 nights that we had this past weekend. So the show or tournament kicked off on July 16th on Saturday, opening night. So we had some undercard matches that we'll kind of just run through here. So the show opened up. We had the New Japan debut of the former strong openweight champion, Filthy Tom Lawler, accompanied by his Team Filthy stablemate, Royce Isaacs. He defeated Kosei Vegeta 3 minutes and 48 seconds. So real quick, just kind of thoughts on, I know it's only, you know, a sub 4 minute match, but thoughts on Filthy Tom's first time in Japan.
I think a few of the things that Tom Lawler is doing is kind of just getting the Japanese audience that might not be familiar with him or acclimated to his character and style. You know, that's what exactly what he's doing, is getting them acclimated. And, you know, kind of at the beginning of the matches, doing the whole like undressing of the jean shorts to reveal the Fa jean shorts, you know, and the stomping and everything. And then when I don't know if you noticed this, like one of two things is going on. When his music is going, he either has a terrible, terrible sense of rhythm and doesn't know how to clap on cue to get the crowd to clap with him, or, and this is what I think it actually is, he's being a troll and he's purposefully clapping at weird rhythms and off beat so that the Japanese audience cannot clap with him, and like he's trolling them. And yeah. I actually think that is what he's doing.
Yeah, whatever he's doing, it's working though, because the crowd seems very into him and wanting to clap for him, and they like when he's doing, you know, his little Fargo strut, and the whole, you know, big pants reveal gets a big clap. So yeah, I thought, you know, Filthy is making the most of these undercard matches. I think the crowd is taking to him very quickly, and he looked really good here in this opening match with Vegeta.
Biggest pants reveal in New Japan since Okada. Yeah, I thought this was fine. I thought, like, you know, Fujita kind of having that amateur background meshed like decently with Tom Lawler and was like a good, you know, first opponent to kind of like dip his toes in the water. And at first I was like, oh shit, this might be really good. And then it devolved into like a squash, which is exactly what you expect here. And Tom looked great. Royce is doing a good job being sort of his corner man and his, you know, backup and heat or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not really watching, and I know you're not, but I'm not fully watching all of the undercards for the rest of the tournament, but I definitely wanted to, you know, watch the first couple nights to kind of get a feel for how guys like Tom Lawler and Bad Dude Tito and Royce Isaacs, you know, a lot of those like LA guys, how they sort of, you know, acclimate to Japan.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I did watch both undercards this weekend, but going forward, I'm probably not going to catch many more undercards. Like you mentioned, yeah, definitely want to kind of catch to see how some of these U.S. guys are doing in Japan. And one thing from this match, we did learn the name of Filthy Tom's version of the Kamagoye. So on Strong, he's been starting to use that reverse Kamagoye knee to the back of the head, but we learned here that he calls it the nasty knee on the brain, also short for NKOTB is his name of his finisher.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next match here. We had
Like, why don't like if we're gonna do that, then why don't we just call it the Knopt? You know, like why?
because it's Filthy Tom. He has to make it complicated.
Yeah, it's super complicated, stupid.
So after that, we had TMDK's Bad Dude Tito and Jonah defeating Oiwa and Yano, 6 minutes, 16 seconds. Also, this was a preview for the next night where we would see Yano and Jonah go one-on-one. Yano very scared of Jonah. I also thought Jonah and Bad Dude Tito did well here in their 6 minutes, and also I feel like the Japanese crowd has taken to both of those guys also.
I mean, how can you not? Look at him. Look at him.
He's huge.
They're huge. I'm gonna call Jonah Jurassic Jonah, the mastodon.
Oh man. But yeah, both guys look really good here. We had a question here from NJPW. It says, G1, my first time seeing Bad Dude Tito, and I'm officially on the bandwagon. Would you like to see TMDK as a New Japan proper faction?
What's that that mean? It's like, if you weren't here for my struggle, don't be here for my come up or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the Bad Dude Tito bandwagon to you, NJPW. You weren't there for, the West Coast Indies, and you weren't there for Bloodsport. You couldn't be bothered to use your, New Japan World subscription to tune in on Saturdays and Fridays to New Japan Strong. Then, you don't get to it. You don't get to be part of the bandwagon. It's on the past. It's like Jonah. It's like Noah's Ark. Doors closed. Beat.
I will say I've been on the Bad Dude Tito bandwagon for a while now. This guy is freaking awesome. Like, you talk about like a Steiner brother, like reinvented. Like, this is Bad Dude Tito, not Braun Breaker. Bad Dude Tito.
Was this not a dude that, like, the first time I saw him in Indianapolis at Bloodsport, I was like, yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah. And
that was even, back in the day. Me and Jeremy, we went on to the boat 2x2, doors closed. You want to get on? No, it's not happening.
But yeah, so both guys look good here. Yes, I would like to see TMDK brought over along with Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes as another faction. I think the more factions, the better, and especially since, a lot of the other factions have kind of stale. We've had a Bullet Club for a while, we've had Chaos for a while. So, obviously, United Empire is rising and getting popular. So I think bringing over TMDK, Team Filthy, I think would definitely, add some great things to the mix.
Yeah, I'm down.
Then after that, we had the House of Torture, Evil Show Nudro defeating Dave Finley, Jado, and Tamatonga. Some more previews there. Then we had the Bullet Club team, Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Juice Robinson, and Kenta defeating the Suzuki-gun team of Lance Archer, Taichi, Takamichi Noku, and Zack Sabre Jr. They're really pushing the interactions between Lance Archer and Bad Luck Fale for their match coming up this week.
Yeah, and they faced off in another tag team match the next night, which we'll, briefly mention. But I don't know if you recall, when they were in the same G1 block a couple years ago during that first really breakout G1 of Lance Archer, I was a pretty big fan of that match at the time. No one else seemed to like it, but like, I don't know what it is. I just really like Archer and Fale as a pair. I think that they work well together. I think like there's a, movie monster sort of appeal for me. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to go watch these matches, but I enjoyed every time they were in the ring together and talking shit and all that stuff, Yeah,
well, it's just two big, huge guys throwing lariats, shoulder blocks, trying to take each other out. And I think with Fale, he's not going to do anything he can't do. And so I think with him and Archer, I think something about it really works. And then Archer, obviously, he's a little bit more high flying. He's going to do some of the dives at some point to probably knock Fale off his feet. So it just makes for a fun match.
Yeah, you said Fale's not going to do anything he can't do. Well, we know Archer will do things he absolutely can't do because I've seen him bow himself like 2 times now. But that one should be fun, and that's coming up on night 3. So
yeah. Then after that, the last undercard match, we had the Chaos team of Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, and Yoshihashi defeating the LIJ team of Bushi, Shingo Takagi, and Tetsuya Naito. So always,
go ahead.
Also, always a fun when you get that kind of chaos and LIJ mixing it up.
If you want to call it that, I just call it regular old wrestling. Same old shit. No, for me, these like undercard previews are sort of like, you know, the appetizer or like the vegetables before the main course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna peel back the curtain here a little bit. I was talking to Sam. Said this man watches the main card first and then goes back, and if he feels like it, rewatches the undercard. That's like basically like dipping into tiramisu and a steak before you decide to eat those Brussels sprouts. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Getting your dinner before your dessert before dinner.
Yeah, bro. What the fuck are you doing, bro? No, I'm just playing. But actually, I did enjoy this Chaos and LIJ undercard match, and it's probably the only thing I'd say, like, if you wanted to watch something that was good on the undercard, that's probably worth checking out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the tournament matches now. So we had the first tournament match after the intermission from the C block. The Ultimate Weapon, Aaron Henare, defeated the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, at 11 minutes and 11 seconds. So big upset here. We know usually on the opening night of the tournament, we get some kind of upset victory here. And as I was making my picks, I was like, maybe this will happen, but I don't know. I didn't go with it, but lo and behold, we got the big upset here. Aaron Henare, his first G1, and picking up a big win over the ace.
So in our group chat, we have me and Jeremy are in multiple group chats together, but we have one with our buddies here in the Florida local area. And Rich Latta, what's up, Rich? I know he's listening. He was trying to, posit different scenarios that would suck, that would make the G1 be bad. And he was like, we about to see Henare beat Tanahashi on night one. And James Boyd, also One Nation Radio, was poking fun at that idea because they both thought it was so ridiculous, it can't happen. And I was like, bro, that could easily happen. And I was like, I've seen Tanahashi lose in big spots in the early parts of G1s for many, many years. Last year with Chase, the time with Sonata, the time with Yano, the time with Ishii, when Ishii was literally an under guy, a guy that was a joke. In 2013, on the second night, he beat Tanahashi with that fucking that Ishii drive or whatever it's called. So I've seen this dude lose in a lot of spots where people were like, no way bro, Chase Owens happened just last year. You know what I mean?
Right, and I feel like Chase is almost a little bit lower or maybe the same level as Henare.
I feel no, I would disagree with that, but I think we can take Henare as a character a little more seriously, but I feel like Chase Owens has kind of been higher, up on the totem pole for quite a bit longer than him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess a little bit pushed further with the KOPW and tag team title stuff, yeah.
But at the end of the day, this didn't shock me at all from a standpoint of we've seen this happen a lot. Plus, no one wants to believe me, but I think Tanahashi is on the downside. I think they're definitely going to still run main events with him at some point down the road here and there. But I feel like we're in that Twilight Nagata phase,
Mm-hmm.
where Nagata started getting phased down. I feel like that's where Tanahashi is. People don't want to hear it, but I think that's what's happening, especially with some of those comments that we didn't even really go that far in depth with, but during that business call, and they were talking about bringing in new blood and getting guys started younger. How are you going to make room for guys to start younger if you got guys that are older on top? So I wasn't surprised by it at all. As far as the match goes, I wasn't really that impressed with the match. I thought it was just fine. I might have expected a little bit more here. There was the point where Tanahashi hit him with the standing high fly flow and then, was getting ready to go for the second one. And I was like, well, I guess I was wrong. I guess Henare's not going to beat him. And then Henare got the knees up and I was like, oh, okay. I guess miracles can happen. So
Yeah, I thought it was a good, solid matchup. It didn't really hit, any kind of G1 heights. I think obviously the goal of this match was to put over Hanare, and I think that's exactly what Tanahashi did, kind of showing off the power of Hanare. He's been using that full Nelson. I forget what he calls it, but his version of the full Nelson. He's been using that in matches, and he finished Tanahashi up with the Streets of Rage, his Samoan drop type finishing maneuver. So getting him over, getting his finishers over, getting over his strength, and getting him a good start to the tournament.
Yeah, there's some things here. I think Hanare has a good array of different, like signature moves that look pretty devastating. Some like really cool stuff. I mean, he's got like the Toa Bottom. He's got that rugby, spear tackle thing. He's got
the Rampage.
The Rampage, Streets of Rage. He's got a lot of different like cool things. And then he's, mixing in some of the Muay Thai, which I'm a big fan of. There was some sloppiness here. I'm not going to lie. And it wasn't from Tanahashi. It was from Hanare. Maybe that's to be expected for him being in a big spot like this for the first time in like what feels like years. Like,
yeah.
It feels like the last time he was like working singles matches that mattered, they were against like Ishii in like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, when he's still rocking his old gimmick with the brown.
Yeah. So, but good on them for putting over Hanare. I'm fine with it because at the end of the day, Tanahashi's like kind of like Suzuki in a certain sense. Like he's gonna be untouchable. I mean, he could eat 3 pinfalls in this thing and walk out and be totally fine when it's all said and done. I'm not advocating for that, but it's sort of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. People have been complaining for years and years and years that they don't push Hanare, they don't give him opportunities. When are they going to, what was the point of making him X? What was the point of making him be this mystery guy? And he's just a pin eater in United Empire, and people complain, yap. They waited too long. And then the moment they actually do something cool and fun with him, they're like, hey, you're messing with our Tanahashi.
Honestly, I haven't seen too many people complaining that Tanahashi lost.
I saw some, Yeah. But, also I will say this. I haven't seen too many people talking about the G1 in general.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the chatter is definitely a little bit down compared to previous years.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it as well. But, I'm fine with them giving Hanare the win because ultimately, like, did it last, like, just comparatively speaking, last year, did it help Chase Owens to beat Tanahashi? Yeah. Did it give him a little bit of boost? Yeah. Did it lead to anything significant long-term? Not really. Is Tanahashi still Tanahashi? Is he still, winning titles, putting on great matches, doing main events? Like for the immediate foreseeable future, yeah, I think that's all still going to be the case. So,
yeah. I think with Tanahashi too, he's already crossed that line of like superstardom, like you're mentioning, like these losses are not going to hurt him. There used to be a girl that used to go to my church who was from Japan. She just recently moved back, but when she saw me take a picture with Tanahashi, she was like, oh, she's not a wrestling fan, but she knew who Tanahashi was. She's, oh my gosh, you took a picture with Tanahashi? Like, how'd you do that? Like, she was like marking out just for Tanahashi. He's not even a wrestling fan. So just his status in Japan is like, kind of like that pop culture superstardom. Like, people know who he is, even if you're not a wrestling fan, and he's going to be all right.
Yeah, like Brad Pitt, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
We did have a question here from MJ Does PR. He says, why do you think Hanare has bulked up so much for this tourney after coming back from COVID looking pretty shredded?
That one's hard to say. I mean, could that be an indication of something? It could have been like a decree from management, we want you to be bigger, we want you to be badder, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It could just be, who knows, maybe he's in the middle of a bulk cycle. Maybe he hasn't been taken care of. I mean, it could be a myriad of different things. I don't really know. But, and I couldn't sit here and say if I even think that that's an indication of anything as far as management or bookings concerned. I don't really know. But I don't think it is something that doesn't suit him, as far as how he looks. I think he's pretty good shape. And I think as the tournament goes on, we'll see a little bit more of what he has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised too if it was a management thing. I've heard people talking about like with Fale, when him losing weight, the company would be like, "No, we want you bigger. Stop losing weight." So
right, that's what I was thinking of too.
Yeah, so it could be a situation where like They're like, all right, we like you're shredded, but we actually like you if you're bulkier. So it could be a situation like that.
Yeah, it could be that, but you also, I mean, we've lived through it. I mean, we went through a pandemic where people had so much time on their hands, nothing to do. People decided to get into shape. You try to go onto eBay, you couldn't find any dumbbells that were even like priced adequately. Shit was wild, and everyone was getting in shape. And now it's 2022. People went back to work. The masks came off, and some people let themselves go. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what has happened here, where he's not actively training as a full-time fighter in the jungles of Thailand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think both things are plausible, and we don't really know. But I think he looks good in the tournament so far. I mean, I'm glad that they did the surprise at least at this junction of the tournament,
Yeah. Let's move on to the next match. We had a match from the D block with Will Ospreay defeating El Phantasmo 15 minutes and 6 seconds.
Great match. Very, very good. This is one of those things where, and I feel like we're going to be saying this probably about both guys, to be honest, but especially with them being paired up, a lot of people kind of said like, yeah, this night didn't feel like G1, but Ospreay and Phantasmo was awesome. And I'm not going to be surprised if, like we previewed last week in the block, that Phantasmo and Ospreay and Shingo and those guys just continue to put on great performances in D block. The story here was awesome with them having so much history with one another. Will Ospreay being the guy that kind of advocated for a babyface ELP to leave Rev Pro to be brought into the fold of New Japan and potentially join, say, Chaos, and instead he kind of turned his back on him and went Bullet Club. Very similar to what happened with Robbie Eagles at the time. And, the various different wars that we've seen them have with one another, especially in Super Juniors and Super J Cup, and, Ospreay kind of defecting from his own group and forging his own path as a heel. And so it's like you have two different heels that are, kind of crossing in the night, have a lot of history, but have been kept apart for quite a while. And this is a different kind of match than the ones we've seen from them in all the other, the J Cups. And I mean, it was sort of like, the way I liken it is like El Phantasmo, who's always had the frame to be a heavyweight, but like just now kind of testing out those limits, figuring out what works for him. If you notice, a lot less tomfoolery. And I saw some people kind of commenting like, yeah, we didn't get like dickhead, ELP. And I'm like, yeah, because he's punching above his weight class and he can't fool around with these fuckers who can knock his head off. And that's what we saw in this match. And you got Will Ospreay, who's at the top of his game, who's been in this division for years and years and years at this point, and is a bruiser, essentially, a guy that he's an assassin, a guy that can fuck you up. And as good as ELP was on this night, one mistake cost him everything. But the wrestling, the chain grappling, like the aerials, everything was on point. I've been critical of the matches they've had in the past. In fact, I'll go as far as to say this. Most people will disagree. Cage Match disagrees, but I don't care. This is the best match they've ever had together. I like this vastly more than anything I've ever seen from them, whether it was Rev Pro, whether it was the Indies, or in the juniors. This is the best version of Ospreay and Phantasmo that I've seen, and I don't think it's the best match that they possibly could have. Very impressed. I like this match a lot.
Yeah, this was a 15-minute sprint, and I almost felt like Ospreay's attitude was like, I'm a heavyweight, so I'm going to outstrike you, but I could also still do the high-flying stuff, so I'm going to outfly you also. And we saw it right from the opening bell. He hit the big drop kick and then immediately hit a Sasuke special right from the go. And from there, big sprint with getting all these crazy high spots, reverse Spanish flies and Hurricane Ranas, and ELP does his Acai moonsault, and we're getting all these kind of great high flyings. And then also just striking, ELP would try to, outstrike Ospreay, and Ospreay would kind of laugh it off. Ospreay's had some time as a heavyweight now. He's bigger and bulkier, and really they're putting him over as a deadly striker, especially with the hidden blade and the Chelsea grin and stuff like that. So Ospreay had the advantage when it came to the striking. So there's a lot of really cool counters, really high-paced action here, and then it all came down to the end here where you mentioned that kind of one split second where ELP, he hits a sudden death, gets a near fall. He goes for the CR2. Ospreay blocks that. Then he hits the hook kick, and then he goes for the Oz cutter, but then ELP turns it to a backslide, and ELP thinks he got the win. He's arguing the 3 with the ref, and in that split second, when he's arguing with the referee, Ospreay comes out of nowhere, hit him blade the wrong way, knocked this man out, and got the win.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing I really liked about that was, well, 2 things. Number one, I don't know if you noticed, but he kept going for the Oz cutter quite a lot. This was like the 3rd or 4th attempt of him trying to use that move, which, I don't want to be one of those guys that tries to add hidden meaning to something that's not really there. But I did find it interesting that he wasn't trying to go for, like, say, the, what's his major finisher?
The Stormbreaker.
Yeah, I wasn't going for Stormbreaker, and he wasn't even really looking for Hidden Blade too much. For whatever reason, he was trying to hit him with that fucking Oz cutter, which I think might have something to do with, like, what you talked about. Like, anything you can do, I can do better, and I can beat you as a junior with my junior finisher.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And we've seen Ospreay beat young lions and younger guys with the Oz cutter still. I mean, it's very rare that he uses the Oz cutter, but usually for a lower level guy, he will beat people with the Oz cutter.
Right, and that's what I was thinking was kind of going on there. Like, I don't think a commentary was, like, harping on it, or, that it was an on the surface level sort of storytelling device, but I feel like it was kind of brooding under the level there. Mm-hmm. And the whole time, like, I think ELP sort of knew that, and that's how he was able to catch him in that bridge at the end there. And then, like, at that point, Ospreay was just like, okay, fuck it. I've tried it 3 or 4 times. It's not happening. Hold this. Wow.
Yeah.
And pinned him off that. And it's like, that wasn't even like the regular Hidden Blade. That was like the reverse one, like, which I guess you could argue in some ways is more damaging, but also that's not his primary weapon of how he beats guys with that move. So part of me is like, damn, like, he beat you with, like, his, like, alternate version of his secondary finishers.
Yeah.
So it kind of tells me that, like, ELP, at least as far as it comes to Ospreay is concerned, has a little ways to go. But the match was really entertaining, and, like, I definitely want to see them wrestle again, which you go back to the audio and listen to the last major match these guys had, and I wasn't really saying that, honestly.
Yeah, I think the last match, ELP was super into doing his shtick and the low blows and the back rakes and the ha-ha cheating kind of stuff, but here it was all go.
It wasn't even just that. It was also the flow of the matches that they've had in the past. It was very stop and go. It was very disorderly. There wasn't a lot of, I don't know, they just felt very discombobulated. Like, there was great spots, like a lot of really cool athletic stuff, but the in-between just didn't make sense to me. Whereas this match was the polar opposite. There was tons of great moments, great, spots, but everything in between flowed perfectly. There was a reason for everything. It just made sense. And it was a very, like, compelling, honestly. I thought this match was great. I thought it was match of the night easily.
Yeah, it had incredible moves. But yeah, definitely a great matchup here. I went 4 1/4 on it. Definitely one of the best matches of the night.
That's what I would go as well.
So then following that, semi-main event came from the B block. We had the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Switchblade Jay White defeating the Cold Skull Sonata 18 minutes and 7 seconds.
Yeah, so Sonata and Jay White is an interesting matchup. I think depending on what segment of the fan base you're talking to, these two individuals can either be extremely overrated or extremely underrated, or, properly rated. But that seems to be pretty rare that you find someone that properly rates both guys in the right context of, like, what is presented from them and the output that we see them in. It seems that most people kind of get themselves in the camps of either highly overrating or underrating these two individuals. And in a matchup like this, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what version of each guy you're really getting. There is a scenario where you could take these two guys, and I'm not being hyperbolic here. You could put them in a G1 final or a Tokyo Dome. You get an all-time like 5-star classic. There's also definitely versions where they go out there and they shit the bed and it's like 3 stars. I think we've seen a major match of theirs that like extremely underperformed. So I was like, I don't really know what to expect here. And for me, this match was a tale of two matches. Like for the first half, it was okay. I was kind of bored. I actually fell asleep during this match and had to come. I did, but I caught myself because I was tired and I was like, okay, here's where I'm at. Let's put it in perspective. This match hasn't been bad. It's just been a little slow in the opening because Jay's trying to get heat. We'll come back. But the second half of the match was phenomenal. And it was filled with all the things that these guys do that make them great. And I kind of split the difference between those two different halves of the match. And I'm probably like, I don't know, 3 3/4, maybe 4. The match ended up being a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It was definitely a lot better than, I can't remember where it was. Was it like the other time they wrestled? I don't know if it was Dontaku or whatever.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of like B-level shows, I think.
But people were hyping that up like it was going to be a major, major match, and it fucking sucked. And this one didn't suck, but it also didn't like knock my socks off. But the tail end with all the reversals and everything, that stuff was superb. So, you know, I don't know. The match was good. Jay cheats. He keeps his heat, gets the 2 points. You know, maybe Sam's is right. Maybe he's going to go undefeated in the block. I don't know.
Yeah, that was my call.
Oh, yeah, I guess that was your call as well. I think both of you were kind of calling that because I heard him say that on JCast as well.
Yeah. But I have very similar thoughts to the match as you did. Yeah, I thought the beginning was slow. You know, there was a lot of powder with Jay. He was, you know, teasing the crowd because they couldn't chant Sonata. So he's, you know, messing with the crowd. He makes Sonata hold the ropes open for him. And then, yeah, it was kind of, you know, more character work towards the beginning. And then
doesn't that kind of make him a hoe?
Yeah.
Like, I think the intention of him holding the ropes was like, I'm not really afraid of you, so whatever you say, I'm still gonna beat your ass. But it didn't come off that way. It came off like not in a good way.
It came off kind of dumb. Makes it all kind of bad there. But you know, I feel like with the camps that you were mentioning earlier, I feel like it's kind of like an overcorrectness from both groups. Like Jay, both guys will have performances like you mentioned where it's like 3-star special, and so the people that hate them are like, these guys suck. They went out here, had a 3-star match, blah blah blah, and so every time they wrestle, that camp will kind of oversell how bad they are. And then when they have a great match or a very good match, then the other camp's like, oh, these guys are incredible. You know, they should be pushed to the moon, and they kind of go over the top of it sometimes. But yeah, there's that balance here. And like, this was a very good match. Like you mentioned, the Tail 2 match is very slow in the beginning, a lot of character, Jay getting heat. And then, yeah, the second half of the match really picked up with more of a faster pace, more of the reversals. You know, Sonata going for the skull end, trying to hit the moonsault. And then, you know, Jay is a great counter wrestler, so he had a lot of great counter stuff that Sonata was doing. And of course, you had Gato out there as well. There was a really great near fall towards the end. Sonata had a great O'Connor roll towards the end that I thought he was going to pin Jay with, but Jay eventually gets out. And then, of course, towards the end there, Jay's able to he hits an eye poke and gets out of the skull end, and then hits the Blade Runner and gets the win.
Yeah, they kept teasing skull ends into Blade Runners back into skull ends, and so that was kind of like the majority of what we were sort of seeing there at the end, like that transition between those two moves quite a bit. You know, that is the one thing that both guys are really known for in a certain sense, is their ability to counter wrestle and catch guys in compromising positions and pick up victories, whether it's, you know, Sonata being able to pick up a big you know, skull end or O'Connor roll, or, you know, obviously Jay White catching someone into his finisher from pretty much any angle, which it's almost DDP-esque the way he does it. And that was something that worked to their favor. We hadn't seen that between the two of them in previous encounters, which I thought was pretty cool. And you know, something that I feel like was lacking in previous matches that they really improved on here.
Yeah. So then the main event of the show came from
you know what it was? New Beginning in Osaka 2020.
Yes, yep. It's all coming back to me now.
6.11 on Cage Match. Here's the worst rating on Cage Match, 1.0. Awful match. It's incredibly hard to watch because it's difficult to watch. Both wrestlers have a style that slows down any match. Now imagine what would happen if these wrestlers were in the same match with each other. There will be something like this. This fight is very long and vicious. I do not understand who can enjoy watching this. Target wrote this on March 12th, 2020. 1.0.
Yeah, that's the camp that goes too far, and they suck wrestling together. Like it wasn't a great match, but it wasn't a 1-star match.
Well, keep in mind it's on the Cage Match ring, so it's probably 2 stars. That's fair.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, this match was. What did you go star ratings wise on this match?
I went 3.75.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Yeah. So then moving on to the main event, coming from the A block, we had the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada defeating Jeff Cobb 21 minutes and 30 seconds. And good little story here, because obviously this was the finals of the A block in last year's G1, and these guys had a big rivalry last year. With Okada getting the advantage, he's 3-1 all time against Jeff Cobb coming into this match. So we know there was a lot of history with their rivalry last year, and then how things ended up in the A block in last year's G1. So a lot of that backstory coming into this match here.
Very, very good match. Like I said earlier, I do think that ELP versus Ospreay was match of the evening, but I went the exact same rating, 4.25 overall for this match. So if you were to tell me that you felt this was a little bit better for whatever reason, I wouldn't even argue at all, because they were about the same quality. And I mean, we're kind of at this point now where, anytime Okada and Cobb are in the same ring and competing with one another, it's going to be good to great, very good to great. And that's what this match was, built off a lot of the previous series that we've seen between these two, as well as they wrestled in the New Japan Cup this year, right?
Did they?
I think they did, yeah. Yes, they definitely did, because everyone was calling for Cobb to beat Okada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this feels like the 5th match in a pretty, within a 1-year span that we've seen between these two guys. And I thought it was great. I thought Cobb looked like a beast. Okada did a great job, selling. We saw Cobb do all these athletic feats that men his size normally can't do, the giant high-flying drop kick off the top, from the ground to the top rope, standing moonsault, all the offense and catches and throws, and he's almost, I feel like, getting stronger. He looks like or either that, these guys are just getting more acclimated to working with one another and more familiar, because like Okada will jump out of the air and he catches him with ease, and it's kind of scary the way he does it.
Yeah, there was one point where he caught him with the spin cycle. It's kind of out of nowhere and just like threw Okada.
Yeah, and then at the same time, Okada just has found the right trigger points for when to catch this guy off guard, for when there's openings, when to capitalize, and to just use his silky smooth wrestling and his technical acumen to get this guy off balance, to get him off of his feet, and to kind of ground him and be able to do exactly what Okada does best. And there was one moment where Okada gave he reversed something and then gave him a spinning tombstone, and it was fucking scary.
Yeah, it was because Cobb hit Okada with a tombstone, and then he hauled him up, but then Okada was able to reverse it over, and then he had a spinning tombstone on Cobb. Yeah, that was pretty gnarly looking.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always that anything you can do, I can do better sort of element. I know we said that earlier during during the ELP Ospreay match, but that's kind of always been an MO of their feud. Well, it's kind of an MO of Okada and Cobb as well, which seems weird because they look so opposed to one another, like from a physical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about like the lofty status of Okada that drives Cobb to do all these things that aren't necessarily out of his wheelhouse, but like to just kind of prove like, I'm a beast and I can still do all the shit you do. Like, and I don't know if that's his undoing or what it is, but yeah, he wasn't able to beat Okada here, but the match was outstanding. I think I like most of the original trilogy, especially their G1 match last year a little bit more, but still fantastic. A great main event for this first night. And, you know, this was truly what I would call like a good G1 match, or, a deserving G1 main event.
Yeah. And I thought Okada, he had a good game plan here of targeting the head. You know, he had hit the DT in the ring and then DT to the outside. I felt like a lot of his offense working on the head and neck of Cobb. Several money clip attempts throughout the matchup here. But it all led to the end where he busted out the Inoki Insiguri to the back of the head. And then he also busted out that Emerald Flosion type maneuver, following it up with the Rainmaker to put Jeff Cobb away. So yeah, great matchup. I also gave it the same rating as ELP and Ospreay, 4.25. So I think, yeah, both matches were on the same level. I would say ELP and Ospreay was probably a little bit more fun because they were doing more flips. But this was a very great match also, and great story, great psychology, great moves. So another fun match in the Okada-Cobb rivalry.
Nice. So let's move on to G1 Night 2, July 17th. The evening opened up with David Finlay and Yoshihashi as they defeated the team of Team Filthy, Royce Isaacs, and Tom Lawler. The next matchup of the night, we saw Bad Luck Fale and El Phantasmo defeat the Suzuki-Gun team of Lance Archer and Taka Michinoku. As we mentioned, continued previews between Fale and Lance Archer for the rest of, for the match that's coming up tomorrow. And we even saw like a pretty big stare down and, face off between these two guys post-match leading to that preview. Third match of the night, we saw Aaron Henare, Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay. They defeated the House of Torture, Dick Togo, Evil, Sho, and Yujiro Takahashi. And you know what? I thought this was pretty fun, actually.
Yeah, it was a fun matchup because, also you got two heel groups here, but United Empire doesn't really cheat that much. And so it's interesting just kind of seeing how they would gel with the House of Torture. Like we said in the past, when House of Torture, when all four of them are in the match, it's definitely more bearable because the cheating is not as egregious.
Right.
So yeah, I thought it was a really fun matchup. I love United Empire's new matching black and silver gear. They look super raw. They
came out here like, we're going to stun on all y'all.
Yeah, they looked great.
Yeah, they looked great. And then post-match, Great-O-Khan did his Japanese, promo style without the mic. And he basically was like, Henare, Cobb, Ospreay, O'Khan, we're about to run the G1, son. Like, That's what he said.
Yeah.
And, it's hard to argue with him. Also, like, at this point let me ask you, is Great-O-Khan the most over member of United Empire? Because it kind of feels like maybe he is.
Yeah, the crowd seemed like really into his like post-match speech. Like they were like clapping the whole, like getting like really into it, like when he was doing his whole thing.
Bro, like this is the most like anti-hero somebody has felt since like the early Ingobernable days of like Naito. Like,
yeah,
this man's out here saving children and then chilling with porn stars. Okay, he's like out here doing like really good things and then out here doing debaucherous things with no regard for anything or anyone. Like, I'm going to go out here and do some voice work for anime in the morning time, and in the evening time, I'm going to walk around with, just getting into whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah. Gonna ride a mechanical penis.
Yeah. And give no fucks about it.
Yeah, O'Khan lives a wild lifestyle.
Yeah. Bro, when we started this podcast and we are like, I like this Oka dude, nobody could have known. We knew he was going to be a great wrestler, but we had no idea.
Yeah, this man was going to be living the life that he lives.
Out here wilding, bro. And then remember like when he was in Red Pro, and we're like, I don't know about this Okan gimmick.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I've turned around on the pants. I thought I liked like
the pants are better.
What?
Oh no, the pants are not better. I like I still like the tights better.
I was on that train, but I don't know. The black and silver pants look super.
The black and silver pants like kind of slap.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm digging the pants now.
But that was like the most modernized version of his pants gear that he's ever worn. The other ones have been very like, you know, old dynasty sort of looking. You know what I mean? Very traditional.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing before that reminds me, and I've never said this on the podcast, but I think about it every time I see Sonata. First off, Sonata has no new gear for the G1, and anytime Sonata does not have new gear, you know that he's not going far in the tournament. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing,
he's like, "Gator, am I winning this? No.
Yeah.
All right, let me pull out this pirate gear."
Well, you know what they do? Pirate gear. Let me get this glam rock Sonata gear out of storage. You know, they don't even tell the guys whether they're winning or not night after night, right? Like that's something they find out when they're like showing up to the building. But with Sonata, it doesn't matter. He knows in his heart of hearts he's not going. He knows he's not going far. But this is the thought I've been having ever since last year when he unveiled this gear. And you notice that he keeps the same gear for a whole year, generally speaking, and he doesn't change it up ever.
Man's wise with his money. He's like, why am I going to buy new gear multiple times a year when I can just wash this gear and keep it all year long?
You got like Will Ospreay trying out custom gears on like warrior wrestling shows that never see the light of day in New Japan. He's like, he does things that like, you know, he buys gear specifically to like test run on like local indies. And then you got Sonata who's wearing the same shit for years. But anyways, the thought that I had about this gear is, what the fuck does this have to do with his character in any way? Have you noticed that about his gear?
Yeah, nothing to do with the whole Cold Skull gimmick.
His gear looks like the kind of designs that they put on pottery and plants and dishes when you go through the like uppity like section of like Target. Do you know what section I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
With the wood. With like, yeah. And then they have the cool, trendy, like with the down arrows and the like gold lines and shit. You know, I've heard it on TikTok referred to as like chuggy, like millennial style. That's what his shit is. He's wearing stuff that belongs on like chuggy millennial like pottery. That doesn't mean shit. And he's like, he saw it on TikTok. He's like, that's a cool design. Put that on my pants, and I'll wear the shit out of it for a year while I don't win anything. Anyways, moving on. The Bullet Club team of Chase Owens and Jay White, they defeated Jado and Tama Tonga. Now, this was a match on the undercard that I was very interested in. And, like, this whole thing with Tama Tonga and Jay White, we were talking about it last week. Yeah, I thought I was kind of into it, but it was, you know, it's been a little while since we've seen them kind of interact. So I didn't know how much it was really going to, like, matter to me. But then once they were in the ring together, I was like, oh, shit, this is dope. Like, this isn't quite, like, Tama Tonga being, like, you know, betrayed and is a man seeking vengeance. It doesn't feel quite like Sting versus the NWO, but it kind of feels like Luger versus the NWO in 1997. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and he's coming for that ass. And he's going to rack you, Hogan, on Nitro 100. And it doesn't matter what anybody does. Like, I think Jay White is in trouble when it comes to Tama Tonga.
Yeah, like this rivalry is very interesting, very compelling. Like their interactions are just so great. And like you want to see Tama desperately get his hands on Jay because him and Tangaloa and Jado have been dealing with so much heat from the Bullet Club and beat downs and, you know, getting dragged. And every time they get so close to getting comeuppance, they kind of get knocked back down. So it's to the point now where you're ready to see Tama Tonga just fully unleash on Jay White.
and the audience is so into it. I mean, they're like clapping way more vigorously, even though they're not allowed to like chant and cheer necessarily. Like you hear the audible gasps when like Tama Tonga's out there. They've got something. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to fuck it up. I'm not going to sit here and be like, Tama Tonga is going to be the next big thing, because they could easily mess this whole thing up. But so far, from the beginning of like the beat down and the beat out of the group to now, they've done a pretty great job. And, you know, I know that I'm really high on the like Rosser versus Filthy feud as being like feud of the year, but I feel like Tama Tonga versus, and well, God in general, but like even more specifically, like Tama Tonga versus Bullet Club, that might be a feud of the year candidate by the time this is all said and done.
Yeah, because with this G1 match, and you got to assume something more is going to come in the fall as well, especially as whenever Tangaloa gets back from his injury. Like, it's going to continue for the rest of the year.
It's funny. There's so much discourse in different areas of the fandom talking about a Bullet Club Civil War. I don't give a fuck about a Bullet Club Civil War, but you know what I do care about? Tama Tonga trying to get in that ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it feels like it's inevitable. Yeah. It feels like this man is going to have his revenge, you know?
Yeah, he's going to get a big win, and it's going to be awesome.
Next up, so the final match of the undercard, we had the Chaos team of Goto and Okada teaming up to and Tanahashi. Sorry about that. 6-man tag action. They defeated the LIJ team of Bushi, Sonata, and Tetsuya Naito. 5 minutes, 50 seconds. And, you know, again, like we mentioned, anytime you get a mix of these guys together, it's going to be pretty good. This one was a little on the short side. And that brings us to G1 action.
Yep, so we had the first match coming from the B block with the hometown hero of the night, Taichi, along with Miho Abe, defeated Tomohiro Ishii 15 minutes and 21 seconds. And I love this matchup. Oh my gosh. Like, first of all, you just had the English commentator just doing a great job kind of explaining kind of the history and rivalry between Taichi and Ishii, and like this just got real from the opening bell. Like Ishii was in like Taichi's face before he like took off his ring jacket and stuff like that, and like wasn't ready. He was like, not playing around. And like as soon as like Taichi like got his ring gear off, like they went at it. You had Ishii calling Taichi by his shoot name at one point, and like they were just like talking so much smack to each other, and then the forearms and the kicks and the strikes and the suplexes. Oh my gosh, like this match just freaking ruled.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the nice thing about it too is that Taichi and Ishii are both sort of in this role in the B block where it's highly unlikely that either one of them are going to go deep or win the block necessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you have a face-off between these two guys with no points on the board so far, it's the very first, you know, matchup for either guy in the tournament, anything can happen because, you know, we don't know. They're pretty much slotted in very similar positions. And as you mentioned, Jeremy, I mean, there's a lot of history between these guys. In fact, there's more history than they even really let on in commentary. And we know that because in the past, Chris Charlton has kind of laid out the full history between these two guys. And we've seen the matches between these two guys in previous G1s and in various other matches. And they've had supreme chemistry with one another. That was one of the reasons why last week when I was asked what some of my like dark horse matches or most anticipated matches were, this was one of the ones I named because, dude, I mean, Ishii versus Taichi, given where they're at this stage of their careers, there's no way it can't be good. The only complaint you might make about this match is that it's like, it's your typical never style match and it's exactly what you expect. But you know what? Sometimes exactly what you expect is exactly what you want.
Yes.
They gave us exactly what we wanted. And those guys went out there and they had a fucking war. This is definitely on the never fight, you know, strong style fight of the year, you know, candidate list already.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very impressed with both guys. And again, the whole time I was watching it, I just didn't know who was going to win. I mean, because you could make a compelling argument for either one of these two guys to be deserving to pick up the 2 points. And that's kind of what the G1's all about. Some of these other matches where, it's not like Jay White versus, I don't know, Dave Finlay, for example, and it's like, oh, it's a big upset, or, it's an expected win for Jay, one or the other. This is kind of a crossroads match for these guys where it's like, I don't really know who's going to win. I can't tell, and I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is. And yeah, they had me biting on some of the near finishes. There's that at the very end when Ishii had Taichi up for the Brainbuster, and he had him up there for a long time. I was like, oh, they got me. Like, in any Ishii match, there's this point where he gets a guy up, and there's plenty of times where he gets the guy up, and maybe it's going to be a suplex, or maybe it's going to be the Brainbuster, or maybe it's going to be a reversal. But there's a point where he gets him up there long enough to where I'm like, okay, game over. Before he even drops him, I'm like, all right, my dog won it. That's it. It's over. And they got me to say that, and then they reversed it. I was like, you dirty bastards.
Dude, Ishii's top rope superplex is starting to get so scary because every time it looks like he's like getting ready to lose a guy, then he's like falls backwards and it drops him. It's a crazy spot.
He never does.
I know he never
does, but it looks like it's going to be.
There was the one match with Shingo where he did, I don't know if it was like selling where he did like drop Shingo. Remember that?
No, I don't remember at all.
Yeah, I don't know if it was last year's G1 or some match they had last year where he like dropped Shingo in the middle of the superplex. But yeah, that spot's always so crazy looking. And then what got me is, normally Taichi only does one dangerous suplex. But in this match, he did a second dangerous suplex and added a bridge to it. I was like, oh, he's going to get him here. I popped for that near fall. And there were several moves where Taichi was kicking out at one and popping right back up and getting back in Ishii's face. And you can tell he was really serious because with the ripping of the pants, like he didn't do the whole normal taunt that he does when he rips his pants off. He like immediately just like, ripped them off and threw them in Ishii's face.
He did very little of the, shenanigans and, just healed him that we've even like in this phase where Taichi has become an awesome performer. We, more and more different people are becoming fans of him. Even in the midst of that like phase, he still does a lot of the like heelish stuff that he used to do. He still has a playful side. He still has a heelish chicken shit sort of side. None of that was on display in this match. And it was kind of like what you talked about at the beginning, Jeremy, where Ishii got up in his face while he was taking off his, his entrance gear. And he was like, fuck that. Bah, fuck that. Bah. Like, you're not going to play games with Tomohiro Ishii. I'm here to bang, baby. And like that's what he told him. And like there was this look on Taichi's face. It's like, all right, let's do it. And these guys went out there and they had a fucking war.
It was so awesome. And then towards the end there, Taichi, he bust out the sumo elbow, followed up with the Black Mephisto and put Ishii away.
Bro, that was the best of that sumo elbow that he's landed so far. Like in the past, he's landed it and it's looked okay, but this one was like, oh shit, like he blasted this dude. And like, I'm not one to like advocate for CTE, but like if you can do that, a little more snug and safely, like I'm all for it. It looked great.
Yeah, awesome, Matt. What'd you go on this?
4 1/4, 4.5 ish, somewhere in that nature. I'd probably go 4 1/4.
Yeah, I went 4.5. Yeah, this match just, I don't know, I just loved it. The pace, the speed, the strikes, the near falls, the selling. Like,
now, we talked off air, and where we're going to disagree, this was not my match of the night, but I think for you it was.
Yeah, fun matchup.
And I will say this, overall, we're going to talk about the low point here in a second, but I did like B Block second night. Or, God, what? I'm so used to talking about B Block.
Right.
I liked the second night of G1 better than the first night overall.
Yeah. So now moving on to the second tournament match, we had action from the A block, and this was Toru Yano defeating Jonah by countout 9 minutes and 1 second.
Wah, wah. Well, it's Yano, and with Yano, anything can happen in a G1 and to anyone, and you don't know who it is. You know he's going to beat some guys, but you don't know who they are. And unfortunately, in this case, it was Jonah. I thought this was, I judge Yano matches a little different in a G1 than I do everything else. I just kind of put it on a Yano scale. And for the like early parts of it, I thought it was fine. It was kind of fun. Things were going, blah, blah, blah. Looked like Jonah was about to beat this guy. And then it kept going. And then it kept going. And then I was like, wait a second. And then like Yano was kicking out of shit. And I was like, oh my God. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's gone past 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And now I was like, and it's going too long. And now I know for a fact Yano is going to beat Jonah. And for me, when he did beat him, I wasn't surprised by it at all, because there's just, I don't know. I don't have the numbers. I'm not Chris Sampson. I can't tell you, like, I think that'd be an interesting thing to look at is like the match length of Yano in a G1. Like, I feel like just taking a guesstimate that when it's shorter, Yano usually uses, and when it's longer, his percentage of wins start to go up. That's what I feel like, just based off my experience. And that's what happened here. And I was like, fuck, he's going to fuck this dude. And what's funny is now, we talked about it last week, Chris brought up that really great point that this dude does not have another tournament match for like 11 or 12 days. And now he just came off of a loss in his debut match for New Japan in Japan. And now he's iced for like essentially almost 2 weeks. I feel like this is maybe, in my opinion, Gato's attempt to do one of those comeback stories, because the blocks are so short.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have someone go on a 3 or 4 match losing streak and then come back and win the block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or look impressive. But in this case, you can. You can have him lose to the worst guy in the block. You can ice him. You can maybe have him lose the next match. And then, well, maybe you shouldn't do that. But still, you can have him have this early portion where he's not doing well, and then maybe come back and be a threat down the stretch for Okada. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think it could be also like, just trying to forget the loss in a way. Like, it's so long that he's wrestling, like it's a whole like week or whatever passed by. You kind of maybe forget about the Yano loss, and he comes out dominant.
But it feels hard to forget a loss like that. In your debut, I feel like that they made a pretty big deal about it.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely could be what you're saying to try and set up this comeback story. So yeah, towards the end, they were brawling outside, and Yano was able to hit a low blow on Jonah and Bad Dude Tito and get back in the ring before the 20 count. So Yano got the win by count out there. So yeah, your Yano. So if you love Yano, this is probably a great match for you. The whole Yano comedy shtick, being afraid of Jonah and running away. Jonah finding 2 rolls of tape in Yano's trunks, and so you got the whole Yano dog and pony show, and then the count out win.
My main wish coming out of this, like, I have no I'm not worried about Jonah or anything like that. Tons of legends, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Tanahashi, guys like that have lost to Yano and G1s. Not a big deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm not worried about Jonah. I'm not worried about his performances in the rest of the G1 or anything like that. I think he'll be fine. My one main concern coming out of this is, like, are we going to get Yano matches that go over 5 minutes for the remainder of the tournament? I'm hoping we don't. I'm hoping they start relegate him down to his more traditional sub 5 minute tomfoolery, whatever.
The problem is, though, normally we would get 5 block matches in a night, and for most of these nights, we're getting 4 block matches.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
And that's making me concerned. I'm also kind of wondering, like, I don't know. I mean, like, it's just because we've never done this kind of format with this few tournament matches in this span of time. Are they going to do a thing where a couple of guys kind of lead the pack and everyone else gets, eliminated fairly quickly? Are we going to do something where everyone's sort of in play up until the final, portion? And A block is the interesting block when it comes to those questions because of how many monsters and dominant forces are kind of there, plus Okada. And I'm sort of wondering, like, is Yano going to become the guy that gets eliminated very fast and just becomes like the spoiler? Or is he going to be in the mix down the road because they'll be doing something that's sort of equality based amongst that, like parity amongst everybody? And I'm worried about that. I want like, I've never actively cheered against Yano in a G1 because I've never actually had to worry about him being in play. But with this whole setup, I'm just kind of like, let's get these next 2 losses in quick succession, or next 3. Like, let's just do it. Like, boom, boom, boom. Get him the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping happens.
Yeah, me too. We had a question here from our buddy Imp. He says, I don't think there was any better way to debut Jonah, but I may as well ask if you can think of one.
A better way?
Yeah.
Yeah, the better way would be he comes in here and he fucks up Toru Yano with no, like, obstacle or hesitation or anything. Yano tries all of his tricks, and not a single one of them works. He's too smart to get caught by Yano, and he's too strong for Yano to be able to throw him or toss him or anything, and he fucking squashes the dude with a splash off the top rope in sub 3 minutes. That's what I wanted from Jonah and Yano. I'm fine they did this, whatever. I mean, it's kind of classic Gato booking, but, like, yeah, I think it would be much better to have Jonah just beat the fuck out of Yano.
Yeah, I agree with you. If I was booking, I would have had Yano kill this guy, squash match, hit him with that big splash off the top
Yano
rope.
kill this guy?
Have Jonah kill Yano. Hit the big
I was
splash.
like, what are you saying right now?
No. Have Jonah kill Yano, hit that big splash off the top. And, for a Strong viewer, Jonah's been undefeated this whole year on Strong. And
Jonah's a former North American NXT champion, sir.
They just kind of threw his New Japan win streak to the side here to do this whole thing with Yano, which I get people are going to lose Yano and whatever, but yeah, I would have wanted Jonah to have a big, strong debut, and then he can eat some losses later on in the tournament.
Well, there's also that part of it where it's like everyone loses to Yano at some point, so get this out of the way. Maybe this will afford him to win some of those bigger matches against him, like a Jeff Cobb or a Fale or a Lance Archer.
Right.
So that stuff's on the table still, at least. Unless we're overestimating how they're going to book him and he's going to go on the lower end of bracket, and this is just a taste of things to come.
Yeah, we'll see.
In a tiny apartment in Southern California, 2 college dropouts teamed up to start a watch brand that broke all the rules. With clean, innovative designs, unexpected colors, and unbeatable value, Movement became the fastest-growing watch brand in the world. Every bold, modern design is dreamed up at Movement's California headquarters. And now everything is on sale for their 9th birthday celebration. You can save big with 25% discounts on watches, jewelry, sunnies, blue light eyewear, and more lifestyle essentials. And for the first time this year, Movement's best-selling, innovatively made ceramic watches are on sale too. Elevate your own look or give someone an amazing gift that won't break the bank, but looks like it did. There's never been a better time to join the movement. Get the best prices of the year with Movement's site-wide 25% off anniversary sale and enjoy free shipping, free returns, and a 2-year guarantee on everything they make. Just go to mvmt.com. That's mvmt.com.
All right, so let's move on now to the semi-main event of the evening, which came from the C block. We had Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Kenta 21 minutes and 33 seconds. Another match that had a lot of great backstory and history to it. Zack Sabre Jr. was in Noah when Kenta was in Noah, and Sabre was kind of a young boy when Kenta was on top in Noah and that great run he was having, big main event guy. So Kenta here kind of still seeing Zack Sabre Jr. as a young boy and was trying to treat him like a young boy in this match, and Sabre trying to prove that, he's no longer that same young boy that Kenta messed around with in Pro Wrestling Noah back in the day. Like, this is, Zack Sabre Jr., submission master, 2-time New Japan Cup winner, coming to, win this G1.
Yes. And we've seen matches between Zack Sabre Jr. and Kenta since Kenta got to New Japan, especially in the G1. And almost every year that they faced off with one another, it's been one of the better matches of the G1. And, for my money, this is, I don't know. I don't know if I can sit here and say it's the best one, but this one really just resonated for me for a lot of reasons. Like, this felt fucking brutal. I mean, brutal. Kenta was beating the fuck out of Zack. And I don't know if it's because of what Zack said at the beginning and his cocky, like, sort of cheeky comments and demeanor or whatever it was. But, like, yeah. And then also just Kenta just has a mean streak in him and, like, sort of does still see himself as that guy from Noah and, like, sort of sees himself as the senpai. And Zack at the beginning of the match was like, I'm the senpai. And, like, Kenta's like, oh, fuck, no, I'm going to show you who the senpai is.
Yeah, he's like, Kenta's like, make me chanko. And then Sabre's like, no, you make me some vegan chanko.
You make me vegan chanko. Yeah, this was highly violent and very, very good. And, Kenta's great, but there's also kind of always been that thing since he came back that, like, to New Japan where people are like, he's not the Kenta of old. And there's a few guys that seem to be able to, like, light that spark and bring out that better side of him, especially in these, like, later years. And Zack seems to be one of those guys that always, performs well with him for whatever reason. And yeah, this match was awesome, the way they executed it. And towards the tail end, not only was the violence that was on display very, compelling, but, like, the tail end finish where, like, Kenta just kept fucking up Zack and had Zack beat on, like, 3 occasions.
Yeah.
But he was looking to because Zack got under his skin. He was looking to embarrass Zack Sabre Jr., the quote unquote best technical wrestler of the world. And, Zack is kind of coming off in terms of, like, major singles matches. He's coming off of a pretty big disappointing loss to Claudio Castagnoli during the AEW New Japan Forbidden Door pay-per-view. So he's kind of, like, looking to redeem himself. He's not quite on that same high that he was in the first quarter of the year coming off of the New Japan Cup, victory. Mm-hmm. And I think Kenta kind of saw him as a mark, as somebody that he could, really establish himself against in this G1 and start things off strong. But those early comments from Zack were kind of in his head, and he was looking to embarrass Zack, and he hit him with the fuck up by Zaku.
Well, before that, there was the knee that Sabre ran into.
That's right. Zack had him in trouble and was like tying him up and all this stuff, and then he went to go for a single leg, and Kenta hit him with this fucking knee. Very, we've seen this spot quite a bit in the past with, like, Nakamura used to do it a lot. Nakamura did it against Takayama, and he did it against Sakuraba more famously, where he goes in for a single leg, they throw the knee, and it just levels the guy. Well, that's exactly what happened here, and he leveled Zack.
Yeah, killed him.
And then just killed him. So Zack's laid out, goes to the corner, and when Zack sits up, boom, by Zaku knee. And for anyone that doesn't know what that is, we're talking about the running B plus knee, the one that that Bryan Danielson stole from Kenta, has him beat 1, 2, lifts the dude up by his hair, and then I'm like, oh shit. This is that point in most matches where it's like he had him beat, but he had the visual pinfall, but he let his hubris get the best of him. And now it's going to create an opening for Zack to beat him. Then he goes to the corner, and while Zack is sitting up, boom, hits him another by Zaku knee. That's even worse.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, he killed this dude. Okay, that's pretty definitive. That's a Noah finish. Let's go home. 1, 2, picks the dude up, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing now. and then he goes to put the dude into go to sleep, and something happens, adrenaline, I don't know, but fucking Zach just like kind of wakes up, pops out of that that move and puts this dude into a knee bar, then transitions it to an arm bar, just cranks on the shit, and like out of nowhere just gets the tap on Kenta. And I was like, hell yeah, playing with your food, playing around with this killer. You had this dude beat, and that's what you get, Kenta,
Yeah, Sabre did not go to sleep. He woke up.
He woke up in the middle to go to sleep.
Yeah, grabbed that leg, wrenching on it. Then Kenta was trying to throw palm strikes to break the hole, but then Sabre caught his arm, had all his limbs tied up, and tapped this man out.
Bro, and it happened fast. And it was very, very, very reminiscent of the types of finishes that we saw Zack Sabre doing during the New Japan Cup earlier this year. And so part of me is like, I don't know if Zach's winning the block, but we might see him go on another classic Zach run. Maybe, dare I say, the best Zach G1 run of his career so far, because he seems to do really well in these New Japan Cups, but never seems to be able to put the pieces together to have like a classic run in the G1. But with it being a smaller block, and you look at the field of competitors he's against, you look at this victory in the first night, and he's got Naito on the final night, I think we might see Zach go on like a pretty compelling run of matches during this tournament.
Yeah, and also another note here, Kenta had the 3-1 lead on Sabre in their history of matchups. So this was only the second time. This one, the second win for Sabre. The last time he beat Kenta was in the 2019 G1.
Wow.
So it's a big win for Sabre. And yeah, I think this means, like you're saying, like great things for Sabre to come in this tournament. And similar to 2019, Sabre is saying that when he wins, he doesn't want to wait until the Tokyo Dome. He wants to get his title shot in October when New Japan will be returning to the UK in his homeland. Doesn't plan on getting a briefcase or doing defenses. He wants his big match with Jay White in the UK.
Well, when he said that, that's how I knew he's not winning. So do yourself a favor. You got money, and you're playing on, my bookie or some shit. Don't put it on Zach to win the whole thing, okay?
Well, let's move on to the main event now.
Oh, that's my match of the tournament so far. I'm 4.5 on that.
Okay, I went 4.25 on that one. So we're a little flip-flop with Ishii Taichi, but both great matchups, and I can definitely see the argument for both.
Cage match agrees with me. Did you notice that Grapple hasn't put out night 2 for the voting?
Yeah, I've been frustrated because I want to like lock my ratings in on Grapple, and I keep refreshing and it's not up there.
Yeah.
Need to tighten up.
Punk asses.
So the main event here from the D block, we had Rock Hard Juice Robinson.
Bro, he says it so high pitch.
Rock. We had Rock Hard Juice Robinson defeating the Dragon Shingo Takagi 21 minutes and 38 seconds. Seen a lot of mixed reviews about this main event. What do you think about it?
Oh man, this match, yeah, I thought it was really, really good, actually. I think I'm kind of in that that camp of individuals that thought that the match was really good, but that the finish was what really bogged down the match for me. Juice is a guy, I've always really enjoyed his work, but more specifically, I think he's a guy that shines during G1s and puts in his top efforts. And I don't know if you noticed, we've kind of been in the past at different periods where we kind of felt like Juice was becoming complacent. We've been a little bit critical of his physique, but he is in fantastic shape.
Yeah, he looks incredible.
Yeah, he looks incredible. And there's a lot of questions coming into this match surrounding him, surrounding his absence from Japan, surrounding the new character and gimmick. We hadn't really seen him work in this gimmick as a heel in this company on this kind of level before. And I still think he's maybe sort of figuring that aspect of it out. But I thought him and Shingo went out there and they had a hell of a match. In fact, I thought that this was trending to be a 4 or, slightly above match, basically, in terms of ratings. I thought Shingo looked great. I thought they worked really well together. I didn't think it was maybe necessarily quite as good as, say, like the first night's main event, but it wasn't that far off. The two things that stuck out to me as being detractors, why I think people might not have liked the match, maybe I'm wrong here. For whatever reason, the audience on this night just did not give anything to Juice Robinson. Then again, if you think about it, there is, and I know we're leaning on this a little bit, so I don't want to be one of those like bad faith argument type guys, but he is a heel. He was a fan favorite. He has turned on the audience, and they might actually hate him, and their silence in the match could have literally been the fact that he's getting heat on the character, and when the cheering and the voices come back, we might figure out how like betrayed the audience feels about Juice's turn. That's a real possibility. There is also the possibility that because there was very little clapping and reaction to most of what was going on, that they might not just give a fuck about Juice at this point. It might take a little bit of time to readjust and get fan investment back, because it did kind of feel like they might not care that much about Juice. That's the first part. The second part, I don't know what the fuck happened at the finish, but they took a great match, and it felt like there was 2 or 3 botched segments at the very, very end there, and pretty much nobody knew what was going on. The performers, the audience, Red Shoes, the commentary team, everything seemed to be very befuddled and confused, and then the match just suddenly ended, and the crowd was not happy. And they took what was spanning out to be a great match and turned it into a just pretty good match.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the 2 points you brought up, because those are the 2 things that really hurt this match for me. With every other match, you've had the crowd clapping. Really, there's an energy. I know people kind of joke about the clap crowds, and you can't really tell anything, but you can tell when people are clapping harder, when there's gasp, when they're into somebody or into a match. Like, we've kind of learned the patterns in the last 2 years of kind of how clap crowds react and how whether or not they're into a match. And with this main event, like you were saying, I didn't feel any energy from the crowd. Didn't seem they really cared about this matchup. And so for me, that kind of made the match kind of dull. And I mean, you already don't have vocal reaction, so now you're not getting the clapping reaction or any kind of gasp. And it's like, man, this match just felt like it was dragging. And I'll say the work was very good. Like, there were some great counters. It was very hard hitting. Like, they were doing a lot of good stuff in the match, but it was really hard to get into because the live crowd wasn't getting into it. And yeah, and then the finish there, like you're saying, I don't know what happened there where at one point, like, Juice like pulled Red Shoes, and it seemed like maybe there was supposed to be a ref bump, or Juice was supposed to do like a low blow or some kind of cheating with Red Shoes being pulled, and then he went for the rock slide and couldn't get Shingo up, so then he had to go back to the Pulp Friction to get the win, and it just was all kind of goofy and kind of fell flat there. And I don't know if this has to do with maybe Juice coming back too early from the appendix injury. I also know that it was very hot in that building, so I don't know if he got knocked loopy or he was just super hot and just kind of, discombobulated towards the end there. But something happened there at the end that messed up the finish, and I don't know if it was miscommunication or, like I said, Juice kind of being out of it. Because, I mean, even after the match, I don't know if it was selling or not, but, I mean, he was laying on the mat doing his promo for a while and breathing pretty heavy before he got up and finished the promo.
I think that could definitely be a part of it, no doubt. I mean, I would be hard-pressed to commit to the idea that the reason the match suffered overall was because he was gassing. And I mean, I'm not saying that's impossible, but I don't know if I would buy into that theory. I might be inclined to think that at the end, it could have been miscommunications, or it could have been a result of, gassing out in the tail end for sure. That's definitely a possibility. But I don't think that's why people weren't reacting. I don't think they were seeing something that we don't see. In fact, I think oftentimes the fans at home get to see more than what the audience can see. We have a better vantage point. And I thought the work was fantastic. I didn't think that match was boring whatsoever. I was very much into it. It just, it wasn't getting the kind of reactions you would expect from a main event. And then the ending was so weird. The other thing too is like, what's the new finish of Juice that they seem to be building up?
The rock slide.
Okay, so it seemed like they were maybe leading to a potential rock slide finish, but then they ended it with Pulp Friction. But that was the second Pulp Friction of the evening.
Right. That's why I said it seemed weird. Like, cause he couldn't get Shingo up for it, and then
he couldn't get Shingo up, but Shingo couldn't get him up for whether it was the Last the Dragon or the Made in Japan that he was going for. I know some of that was definitely by design because Juice was reversing it, but at the end he was trying to get Juice up, and I don't know if Juice wasn't maybe posting enough or what the case was, but I think that's where the ref bump was supposed to happen, and then it didn't happen because he couldn't get Juice up, and I don't know whose fault that was. It could have been both of theirs. So that whole thing seemed weird. I mean, definitely one of the stranger finishes to a G1 match that I can remember in modern years.
Yeah, it was really weird. And overall, with the crowd reaction, it's kind of disappointment because obviously Shingo had a great year last year. Was former world champion. Then you got Juice fresh off the heel turn. He has the U.S. title captive. You would think there would be a little bit more heat or fan investment here, but there wasn't for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just this city. I guess we'll find out going forward if other cities feel the same way about Juice. But yeah, could have been better, but overall it ended up was a very good match. I only went 3.5 on it.
I think that's a little harsh. I still went 3 3/4 on this, but at the end of the day, the winner is still the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion,
the International Wrestling Grand Prix United States of America champion.
Rock Hard Juice Robinson.
Yeah.
And then he cut a promo in the post match talking about how he's the champion, yada yada. And then the crowd just gave no reaction to anything he said, and he was like, "Fuck you." He walked out. And that felt very genuine, which is what I like in my wrestling. So
oh man, we have a couple questions here. First from Paul Elliott _316. More likely to win all the remaining matches, Jeff Cobb or Shingo Takagi?
Neither. I don't think either of them is winning the rest of their matches. If I had to give you one that was more likely, maybe Shingo.
Yeah, I would say probably Shingo, because Cobb, even though they have pushed Cobb, I think he hasn't really had that main. Obviously, last year's G1 was a big singles push, but he hasn't won a singles title besides a never title, and Shingo was the world champion last year. So I think, at least if I was booking, it would be Shingo who's the one that's going to get more wins than Cobb. Then Less Commission 7252 says, I enjoy this new attitude of Juice Robinson as he's annoying, funny, and cocky heel. The thing I like about Juice is that the style he wrestled hasn't changed much. So my question is, do you guys think that Show should have kept his style when he was in Chaos if House of Torture had never existed?
I do. I definitely think that Show should be wrestling. I don't want to say exactly to his style, but I mean, he should be showcasing what he's capable of doing. I feel like there's a way to do that as a heel. And in the same token, I kind of think Juice should change his game a bit as well as a heel. I don't think he should wrestle the same way he wrestled as the flamboyant one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a healthy mix of tweaking the gimmick so that, yes, you can get over as a heel, but not completely abandoning what brought you to the game in the first place. So that wraps up the talk of the first two nights. So the current standings. So in the A block, we have Kazuchika Okada with 2 points, Toru Yano with 2 points, and then Lawler.
Okada and Yano leading the way.
And then Lawler and Cobb, Jonah, Fale, and Archer with 0 points. That's because some of those
losers,
guys
fucking losers,
haven't wrestled yet. Then
Fale, Archer, losers.
Then in the B block, we have Jay White and Taichi with 2 points, and Ishii, Sanada, Tamatanga, Great O'Connor, and Chase with 0 points. In the C block, Aaron Henare and Zack Sabre Jr. with 2 points, Tanahashi, Goto, Naito, Kenta, and Evil with 0. And then in the D block, Ospreay and Juice with 2 points, and then Yoshihashi, Shingo, David Finlay, ELP, and Yujiro Takahashi all with 0 points at this time. So coming up this week, G1 will pick back up tomorrow, night 3 on Wednesday, July 20th. So on the undercard, we have... go ahead.
I say we just go over the G1 matches. I mean, do you see anything on any of these undercards that's even worth really discussing or mentioning? I don't.
Probably
bunch of tag matches.
Yeah, I mean, this first night on night 3, Bad Dude Tito and Jonah versus Royce Isaac and Filthy Tom. That one could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that'll be interesting for all you strong lovers out there.
Besides that, yeah, just kind of you're saying kind of multi-man kind of stuff. So that moving on to tournament matches. So in the D block, we'll have Yujiro Takahashi versus David Finlay. From the B block, Tama Tonga versus Chase Owens. From the A block, Lance Archer versus Bad Luck Fale. And then the main event from the C block, Hiroki Goto versus Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, interesting night. Tama Tonga versus Chase Owens. That's not quite him versus Jay White, but there's definitely that Bullet Club aspect there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like the first step in his quest to get revenge.
Yeah, kind of like he's working his way up the Mortal Kombat ladder of Bullet Club guys.
Right, and as you just mentioned, you know what? I keep doing this to myself. I keep thinking that guys that are wrestling on the same night are in the same block. I'm just such in that mindset, so never mind. Yujiro versus David Finlay, that's one that's, I guess, winnable by either one of them. I would hope that David Finlay picks up the win there, but you just never know because it's G1, but that's not really one that I've got earmarked as a high mark of the evening.
Yeah, I would really expect Finlay to get the win there.
Well, you never know. Yujiro hits that big juice. He beat Kota Ibushi last year.
Yeah, that's true. But Finlay has a shillelagh now.
Lance Archer versus Bad Luck Fale, that's a match that we've seen before. I enjoyed it. I love when big monsters collide, and that's what we're going to get there. Don't expect that one to go long, though.
Yeah. And then...
I don't know. Who do you think's picking up the win there? Who won the last time they wrestled? Was it Archer?
I think it was Archer.
I'm going to look.
But
you can...
I'm going with Archer here on this one.
Yeah, I don't see why not. But it's just tough. G1, you just never know.
Yeah, either guy, this is a 50-50 throw-up match here. Either guy could win, and there's a good reasoning for either guy to win. But I feel like with Archer coming back, first G1 in a couple of years, the AEW rub, and I do think he's going to eat some losses in this block. So I think this is a match that he needs to win.
So they've had 2 matches in the past. In 2018, they wrestled in the first round of the New Japan Cup, and Bad Luck Fale beat Lance Archer. And then in 2019, Lance Archer beat Bad Luck Fale in A block action. Both matches were around 10 to 11 minutes. So if this went near 15 minutes, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, same here. It's going to be 10 minutes of these guys throwing lariats, shoulder blocks, trying to out-monster the other. Should be a fun match.
And Archer will do a moonsault.
And hopefully not land on his head.
Or he's going to walk the ropes and do some crazy shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Do a springboard senton dive.
See, they fucked up. They should have put Archer and ELP in the same block.
Yeah. Dueling rope walks.
Yeah.
Then the main event, Goto and Naito. This match, I think, can either be like
very good or very mid.
Yeah, I think it could be mid or it could be great. Like, if Goto comes to play, like, it's a big main event. If both guys have their working boots on, like, this could end up being a really great main event. But, I mean, we've seen Goto wrestled Tanahashi a couple months ago, and it was just kind of fine. It was there. And so, again, if we get that Goto and we get a Naito who's more into, like, storytelling or showboating in this match, it can end up being not the best main event.
I've seen a motivated Goto and a motivated Naito, and a lot younger than they are now, still go out there during the G1 and just have average matches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it is a main event, so I'm sure that will put some added pressure. Overall, this night doesn't necessarily look like one that's going to blow you away, but there's some good stuff here. You got the Tama Tonga story, and then you got the monster match. So if Goto and Naito put their working boots on and really are motivated, this could be a surprisingly good evening. And that'd probably be my pick for match of the night, honestly.
Yeah. So moving on to night 4, Saturday, July 23rd. With tournament action from the C block, we'll have Zack Sabre Jr. versus Aaron Henare, so the two leaders of the C block right now. Then the D block will have Shingo Takagi versus Yoshihashi. In the semi-main event spot from the A block, we'll have Toru Yano and Kazuchika Okada. And then the main event will be from the B block as Tomohiro Ishii takes on Switchblade Jay White.
Yeah, so Zack versus Henare is a little interesting because, like you mentioned, it's the two leaders there. And, you know, anytime you have two guys that are kind of like streaking at this point of the tournament, it's always kind of interesting to see how things shake out from that point going forward. I think Aaron Henare's like winning streak stops here probably. And Zack probably picks up the win there.
Yeah, I'm assuming that, Sabre's going to tap this man out.
Shingo and Yoshihashi, that's one that we've seen in the past that's kind of always surprisingly good. You know, last year wasn't that, 2 years ago was like that Yoshihashi renaissance period where he was putting on like vintage career performances. We didn't get so much of that last year, but maybe, he taps in and gets a little bit more of that this year. But I'm assuming this is where Shingo gets into the W column.
Yeah, I'd be very disappointed if Shingo lost this match.
How pissed will you be if Yano beats Okada and becomes the point leader of A block?
Oh my gosh, that would be horrible.
So I'm guessing Okada wins, but here's the funny thing. Yano is typically known to beat the point leaders of blocks as opposed to just the regular guys. He usually loses to the regular guys and beats guys like Okada and guys like Jonah. I'm not putting it outside of the realm of possibility that he does beat Okada here and then loses the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, because you can tell a story here of Yano, being hot in the beginning of the tournament, beating Jonah, beating Okada. It seems like he's on a streak. And then going forward, then he runs into trouble.
It'll be like in the next match, you'll be like, you're probably wondering how I got here.
And then the main event, Ishii and Jay White. There's a lot of history between Ishii and Jay White. We talked about it on the preview show and how Ishii always seems to have Jay White's number. Most recently, we saw last year Battle in the Valley for the Never Openweight title of Ishii beating Jay White. And then in the last G1 these guys were in together, Ishii spoiled Jay White, stopped him from going to the finals. So Ishii's just kind of been this thorn in the side for Jay White since they've been in the company together. And so this time, very early on in the tournament, can Ishii once again slow Jay's momentum, or is Jay going to continue his lead and, kind of like I was saying last week, go undefeated in this block?
Jay White versus Tomohiro Ishii is a match that it's probably outside of Okada Sonata, it's probably the greatest match in New Japan that I give the littlest fucks about. For whatever reason, I don't really like their matches that much, but then you watch them and then I can't like deny how good they are, but like going into them, I very rarely care.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, looking at the evening, I'm like, that's going to be match of the night. It's going to be fantastic. And like, you kind of have to take your great matches in this G1 where you can get them. So, I'm not looking forward to it per se. It's not like I've got it. I do have this marked on my calendar, but it's not like I'm like, oh, July 23rd, Ishii versus White. But when it actually happens, I'm like, okay, let's go. And I know they're going to deliver because that's what they do every single time.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be a great main event. And again, I'm going with Jay winning here.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Jay too, which is unfortunate for, Big Tom because he's going to go 0-2 basically at this point.
Yeah. Then night 5, Sunday, July 24th, from the D block, we'll have Yujiro Takahashi versus El Phantasmo, so Bullet Club versus Bullet Club there. Then in the B block, we'll have Taichi versus Sonata. In the semi-main event from the A block, we'll have Bad Luck Fale versus Jeff Cobb. And then in the main event from the C block, we will have the Ace Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, Yujiro versus ELP is interesting, like you mentioned, Bullet Club. But then again, there's always that ELP's coming up from Junior. He's also, kind of the underling to Yujiro's senior position in Bullet Club. So that's going to kind of be interesting how that plays out,
Yeah, and it's also House of Torture versus Bullet Club also.
Kind of. You never know with Yujiro. He might switch it back,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, House of Torture is still, quote-unquote, a sub-unit of Bullet Club, so...
Yeah, but he's like that one guy who's got like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah, like we've seen him team a lot with Bullet Club guys on undercards when you don't see like other House of Torture guys doing that.
Right. Taichi Sonata could be great, could be mid, hard to tell. We'll see how it plays out. Fale versus Cobb is going to be interesting just because two big hosses. Again, A block, the monster block.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tanahashi Naito, if they come in here giving us that the style of match that we got during this year's New Japan Cup, they can miss me with that. But if they come in here with the style of match that they are known to give us throughout the years, then that will be an incredible main event, especially if it's anything like the G1 match they had 2 years ago, which was like one of the best matches of the tournament.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I got Phantasmo over Yujiro. I think initially on paper I had Sonata over Taichi, but just after Taichi's performance on his first tournament match, I want him to go over there. Then I would go with Cobb over Fale, and I would go with Naito over Tanahashi.
Did you say you would just go with Cobb or Fale?
No,
No,
Cobb over Fale.
Oh, I thought you said Cobb or Fale. What other choices do they got?
Yeah.
And then you got Naito's going to be Tanahashi, so Tanahashi's going to be 0-2 at this point.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Ref go for the ace, like they mentioned on commentary. There's been this whole story, in
previous ace.
In previous G1s, he would always get like 11, 12 points or whatever. And last few, he's gotten 8 points, and now this is a smaller block, and he's
Bro, if the comments he made on One Nation Radio this past week are to be believed, he does want the ace to go to America,
yeah.
to the loving arms of Tony Khan. Go ace to AEW. No, I want Tanahashi to stay here. So
yeah, but yeah, I think Naito's got, because I mean overall, I think Naito's gonna win this block. So yeah, I think he's got to get a win here over Tanahashi. Then moving on to next Tuesday, July 26th. From the B block, we'll have Chase Owens versus the Great Okan. From the C block, Kenta versus Evil. In the semi-main event, Lance Archer versus Filthy Tom Lawler. And then the main event from the D block former partners collide. Rock Hard Juice Robinson takes on the Rebel David Finlay.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting here. I mean, we're seeing a few individuals, Great O'Con, Evil, Tom Lawler. They're just now, at this point, night 6 of the tournament, just getting their first matches in the tournament. So, kind of going back to what we discussed last week with the weird scheduling of everything. And then some of the other guys that we have seen, like Juice and, others, Kenta, quite a bit of time between tournament matches here. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out with the booking and how they integrate, the rests and the layoff periods, and whether that's a detriment, whether that's a benefit in terms of performance. It's going to be hard to say.
Yeah. But the Juice Finlay match should be a great matchup here. It's going to be in Cork and Hall. That Cork audience has really followed the story and history of Finlay and Juice Robinson. These guys, former World Tag League winners, former IWGP Tag Team Champions. We really haven't seen much interaction with these guys since Juice turned heel and joined the Bullet Club. So, this has all the history and backstory in making to be a great main event.
Well, it's not like Juice turned on David Finlay. They had the big send-off in Chicago, and then the next thing you know, Juice is showing up in Japan as part of the Bull Club, and there's no interaction between the two of them. So this is going to kind of be that next natural progression that you would expect between two guys that were so closely linked to one another. I think it's a great main event for, this portion of the G1. And for me, that's the most my most anticipated match of the block evening. But, I'll go on record and say I think night 6 is one of the, I don't mean interesting from the standpoint of like, oh, there's going to be a lot of classic matches, but from a storyline perspective, this is a pretty interesting evening. You got Kenta and Evil, so you got that Bull Club, House of Torture thing going on. You got Chase Owens and Great O'Con, and that's going to be, very interesting, especially with Great O'Con just kind of making his first strides into this year's G1.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lance Archer and Tom Lawler both kind of being de facto outsiders, but also somewhat familiar. I don't think they ever wrestled each other, but, familiar to the New Japan audience. That's going to be very interesting, especially to see how Tom Lawler handles an established, monster like Lance Archer and a guy that's, a known commodity from AEW. And then again, Juice and Finlay. There's just like a lot of interesting kind of storylines playing out here.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun night. I have Great O'Con going over Chase. I would have Evil going over Kenta because I feel like Evil's going to be a player in the block this year. The Archer match, I really want to see Filthy Tom get the win there, but I have a feeling Archer's going to win. And then in the main event, I would say probably Juice is going to win over Finlay.
Nice. Well, one thing I think we're seeing here is that even though we might not be getting these classic G1 evenings where it's like, oh, night 15, banger after banger after banger, they're doing a good job of taking the meaningful matches from different blocks and making those the focal point of the main events of the evenings. So, kind of looking at the 4 nights that are coming up, the main event is, in my opinion, pretty much the perceived match of the night from a match quality standpoint almost every single night here. So that's kind of a different wrinkle, but also kind of a good indication of the booking as well.
Yeah. So overall, it should be some fun few nights this next week. Looking forward to these tournament matches and seeing how the tournament progresses.
What match stands out to you in terms of anticipation most? I think for me, it's probably Tanahashi Naito.
Yeah, looking through, I would say probably, Tanahashi Naito or Saturday's Ishii versus Jay White.
I figured, that's probably number 2 for me as well. So both of those look to be very, very good. And, by the time we come back to you guys next week on Tuesday, the the standings will be very different.
Yeah. Now let's move over to New Japan of America real quick. So we had night 2 of the Ignition Tour on New Japan Strong this weekend, in continuation of the Strong Openweight Tag Team Title Tournament. So we had a first round match with the Stray Dog Army of Barrett Brown and Mysterioso. They defeated the Midnight Heat of Eddie Pearl and Ricky Gibson. I thought this was a fun matchup here. Barrett Brown getting the win for his team here. You know, the Stray Dog Army, they've kind of been on a losing streak, or, you know, haven't really picked up a lot of momentum since they formed. So it's kind of a big win here for Barrett Brown. On commentary, they were saying that Bateman specifically put Barrett Brown and Mysterioso in the tournament for a certain reason. So it seems like we're kind of getting a little bit of push here of the Stray Dog Army.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like they're deserving of it. They've been with the company for quite a while, like since the beginning, and, you know, sort of have paid their dues and they're waiting their turn. So, you know, I definitely agree with that. I felt like you mentioned, the match was fun. I felt like what was presented in the ring was maybe better than the way the crowd was reacting to it, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
I didn't think that we saw as good of a showing from Midnight Heat as we had seen previously when they were sort of brought in as, you know, kind of like spotlight talent and that sort of thing. But I thought they looked good here. I thought, you know, like you mentioned, this was fun, and, you know, the outcome was what's to be expected, since these guys are kind of like the more staple tag team of the division.
Yeah. There was a scary spot with Mysterioso doing the Asai moonsault to the outside, and he smashed his leg right across the guardrail doing that. But it seems like he was able to finish the match, and he seemed to be fine from that. I haven't heard any reports on an injury. But we've seen in the past guys like Pac who have like hurt their ankle doing moonsaults to the outside, hitting guardrails. So glad it seems to be okay for now. Then in the middle match of the show, we had Filthy Tom Lawler taking on Bad Dude Tito. So we're starting to see here the Team Filthy and TMDK rivalry starting to start on Strong, and we're seeing it play out in the G1 as well. So that's pretty cool. We had Filthy Tom defeating Bad Dude Tito here, and the whole story was, you know, could Bad Dude Tito capitalize on Filthy Tom's kind of downward momentum after losing the Strong Openweight title? And it seemed like Tito had a lot of Filthy stuff scouted towards the beginning of the match, but Filthy was able to come back towards the end and kind of use a couple of different finishers. So he busted out the rear naked choke. He used the NKOTB, and then there was also the old dirty deeds that Dean Ambrose / John Moxley used to do in WWE that he also used to put away Bad Dude Tito here.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with your assessment of the story and the match and the style and everything. One reason why I think Bad Dude Tito might have fared pretty well here and stood a good chance to beat Tom Lawler is, like you mentioned, the circumstances. But, you know, Tito has had quite a bit of experience with like that blood sport style of wrestling, and so it's not like he's completely unfamiliar with that sort of territory, the style of wrestling that Tom Lawler does. You know what I mean? And I felt like that's one of the reasons why their styles meshed and why he fared pretty well against him. But, you know, ultimately this was kind of like your get back on the right track sort of match for Tom Lawler. And I mean, in a kayfabe sense, you know, kind of prepping him for, you know, the G1 essentially.
Yeah. Then the main event of the show was the last first round match in the Strong Openweight Tag Team Tournament. We had the Aussie Open team of Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis. They defeated the Dark Order team of Alan Angels and Evil Uno, 12 minutes and 44 seconds. Really fun matchup here. Aussie Open, just a great team. Evil Uno's a great tag team wrestler, usually teaming with Stu Grayson, player Dose. But obviously with Stu kind of doing his own thing now, he teamed up here with Alan Angels. It was a very fun, very good main event. Aussie Open hitting the Coriolis on Alan Angels to get the win.
Yeah, I thought this was match of the night. for some individuals, maybe particularly those who are less familiar with TMDK or even the strong product, they might be more familiar with, say, like the Dark Order from AEW. They might have believed or thought that these guys were going to go through. Obviously, kind of knowing at this point that Allen Angels didn't re-sign with the company is probably a good indication that they weren't going to win. Yeah. But for those that are also more familiar with, Aussie Open at this point. Oh, I said TMDK. I apologize. I meant Aussie Open, but obviously United Empire. Anyone that's kind of seen these guys internationally or in Europe or in the UK, they kind of know how great this team is, and that the company has definitely intentions to push them forward. I don't know if they're going to go all the way in this tournament, but I'm not surprised whatsoever that this match was as good as it was, or that they picked up the win here. So, yeah, they move forward. They, beat AEW. I guess this is New Japan's comeback from Forbidden Door.
Yeah. So then this coming up Saturday, July 23rd, we'll have the night 3 of the Ignition Tour. Main event will be the semifinals in the Strong Tag Team Tournament. We'll have Christopher Daniels and Yuya Uemura taking on TMDK, Shane Haste, and Mikey Nichols. Then we'll have Negro Casas, Adrian Quest, and Lucas Riley against our good friend Rocky Romero, Masca Dorada, and David Finley. And then J.R. Kratos will take on a debuting Jordan Cruz. Should still be another fun episode of New Japan Strong this coming up Saturday.
Nice. Well, that's going to lead us into the news. First couple items real quickly. So this past week, New Japan put out posts that they were going to be releasing, which has now been released, a Forbidden Door documentary on New Japan World that is available if you want to check that out. I did watch this, but, Jeremy, I fell asleep and was kind of bored by this. It wasn't what I expected whatsoever. Did you check it out? What were your thoughts?
I have not had a chance to watch it yet. I mean, from what they showed on social media, it seemed like it was going to be cool, but because usually the documentaries are pretty good on New Japan World.
The production's pretty good, but I will say this, it was a lot of old guys talking about the old years of New Japan and WCW and kind of, trying to equate that to what was happening here, which definitely was the case. But then at the same time, I thought that they were going to give us a lot of backstage insight and preview into what was happening on the day of the show, and really kind of peeling the curtain back a little bit or whatever. But it wasn't. It was just kind of guys like Tony Schiavone and William Regal and Sting and people like that, just kind of talking about the old days and then comparing it to today. It wasn't what I expected at all. And I actually talked to Rich about this past week. He kind of said the same thing. I did. Now, in all fairness, I fell asleep, so maybe I do need to go and finish it. But I fell asleep.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't what I expected at all once I heard that they were doing this.
Yeah.
Next bit of news, New Japan Strong has announced an Autumn Attack taping for Las Vegas on Sunday. I actually heard, I didn't realize this, we never covered it in the news, but Chase Owens was alluding to this in the media back in May that New Japan was coming to Vegas. So I guess it wasn't that secret, but for that, the date is going to be Sunday, September 11th. And during the date, CMLL's Mystico will be among the talent set to appear. Autumn Attack will be taped at Sam's Town Live. If you're not familiar with Sam's Town, that's where ROH used to do all the big, what was that? It's not Double or Nothing. I forget what shows they did there.
I think, wasn't it Death Before Dishonor?
Yeah. I was going to say Double or Nothing, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the Death Before Dishonor shows used to be there.
Right. And then New Japan's Music City Mayhem will be Saturday, July 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fight TV as a pay-per-view. On that show, some of the announced matches in the main event, a no DQ match between Jon Moxley and El Desperado. The New Japan Strong Openweight Championship will be on the line as Fred Rosser defends against Big Damo. Davey Richards will be wrestling Clark Connors. Hiromu Takahashi will be wrestling Blake Christian. Kushida will be taking on Alex Shelley. FTR and Alex Zane will be taking on TJP and Aussie Open. And Shota Umino, Fred Yehai, Yuya Uemura in 6-man tag team action against Ren Narita, Kevin Knight, and the DKC. So will any of this be making air as part of Strong, or is this a standalone pay-per-view?
This is a standalone pay-per-view, much like Windy City Riot and Capital Collision.
Okay, gotcha. This feels more like the show from WrestleMania weekend than either of those two shows.
Yeah, the Lone Star Shootout, just because of the weird timing, because it's a part of StarCast weekend. I think SummerSlam is later that evening, or some other.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then Ric Flair's last match is the next day.
Yeah, so that's a part of that whole StarCast SummerSlam weekend kind of thing. So kind of happening.
You trying to go?
Trying to go to this show?
Yeah, you're trying to see Roman and Brock. Oh, you've already seen that match live recently.
Did I? When did I?
Were you not at night 2 of WrestleMania with Brock and Roman?
Did Brock and I forgot what happened.
That's the main event of WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, I totally, dude. That Mania.
Well, yeah, but this one's gonna be the last time ever. We should probably go to that.
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's in some stadium in Nashville.
Let's go. Get some hot chicken. Speaking of Hiromu, did you see he's wrestling Warhorse in some indie for you have to pay $40 to get in?
Yeah, I did see that, and that's
horrible.
horrible.
Sounds horrible. We were in a New Japan group, and someone shared it, and I was like, that sounds horrible. And everyone got pissed at me because I said Warhorse is a horrible wrestler.
That's because, Josh, they don't like when you hit the facts. You tell the truth in that group sometimes. Sometimes you come off.
Telling the truth, people get mad.
It comes off a little harsh to them. They're not used to somebody telling the truth about what happened in the wrestling world.
I think it's because we're in text and they don't know how to take my cadence. You know what I mean?
Right.
It sounds worse than it actually is. But the other day, someone in the group asked about Bob Backlund they thought he was having real shoot fights in Japan. They shouldn't ask that question because it took us down a rabbit hole that they were not ready to talk about. Next thing you know, we're talking about Earl Caddock and Joe Stecker from Madison Square Garden in 1920, and talking about the Gracies and
the thing
talking about the worked nature of Vale Tudo in the 1950s.
The thing that popped me this week was when this FTR Zayn match got announced against TJP and Aussie Open. Somebody was like, "What do FTR and Alex Zayn have in common?" And you're like, "They white."
Aggressive white males.
Yeah, white males.
And bro, everyone in the group except you sold me.
Dude, I was literally dying at my desk when I.
Dude, sometimes though I'm in that group and I'll say outrageous things just to pop myself, and people they don't know that I'm joking at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not at all. Yeah.
It's funny. Anyway, so that's going to do it for the news. And that's going to take us into this week's questions and mailbag.
Yeah, so a lot of these questions we had kicked over from last week. So we'll jump into these. First from our user Puro Poppy. He says, is the returning Kushida the right opponent for Hiromu to finally get his junior heavyweight Tokyo Dome main event?
I mean, very possibly, but if for my money to make a long answer short and concise, that would require the company doing quite a bit of build and investment in both guys between now and then. And I don't know if they post G1 are really going to do that. I think maybe these next couple shows will give us a little bit of an indication as to whether that's even possible.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. A lot of it is on the promotion and the booking. Can it be done? Sure. Does New Japan want to do it? I don't know. I guess we'll find out when the G1's over, and then they have, September until, January to possibly build something like that. He also asked, are booking patterns contagious? Because I think Tony Khan caught the triple threat tag title match fever from Gato.
I mean, possibly, but at the same time, I mean, like, Tony Khan's a pretty big fan of, like, Baba and his booking style. And I mean, you see a lot of that in All Japan in the 90s. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's just happens to coincidence.
I mean, did he like? Oh, you know what? I misunderstood. He said triple threat tag title, and I was thinking 6-man tag for some reason. They never did that shit in All Japan. That's terrible. But that is something that they did a lot in ECW, and he is definitely.
That's true. Yeah, the 3-way.
Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And it's not something that was uncommon in ROH in the early 2000s either. So. It's not like New Japan's the only one that ever came up with triple threat tag team matches. Come on now.
Next question here from Pussy Destroyer 83619.
You gotta say that with your chest. Pussy Destroyer 83619.
They say, whatever happened to Okado?
He became the greatest wrestler that ever lived. That's what happened to that man.
He became the Rainmaker. Next question from Less Commission 7252. From 1 to 3, where would you put these 3 on your list? Shinsuke Nakamura, Prince Devitt, and AJ Styles.
That is a very tough question. And I guess, are we talking, since it's a great question, but it wasn't as detailed as it could have been. Are we talking all time? Are we talking just in the pantheon of New Japan? What are we doing here? I guess all time. I don't know.
Yeah, let's say all time.
As much as it pains me to say this, I think I got to go AJ 1, Nakamura 2, and Prince Devitt 3.
That would be my exact order also. For me, watching AJ from TNA from the early days, his whole career up until now, I mean, yeah, just it's incredible body of work. And so, yeah, for me, AJ would be 1, and then Nakamura, then Devitt, which, I mean, all 3 guys are great. Very tough list here. Then the Dark Soldier says, man, Kyle O'Reilly should have beaten Moxley, fought Tanahashi, and won the AEW title. After the match, Kushida comes out and says, we can't fight at WrestleMania, but we'll do it at All Out. What are your thoughts?
Booty cheeks. I would love for these guys to wrestle again, but I'm not trying to see all that. That's crazy.
Yeah, Tony Khan's not putting Kushida versus Kyle O'Reilly in the main event of All Out. He also says, Yo now holds the never 6-man tag titles. However, he needs 2 guys help to be a champion. Still a hoe, right?
Correct.
Yes, his status has not changed. From Rambone Slam Pig, he says, are Ospreay's recent comments regarding Omega in his Wrestle In interview an indication that we might be getting a head-to-head matchup this year? Or is he just popping off / shooting? What would be the best venue for that match to occur?
I think that's a great question, and it's something that's been the subject of a lot of debate and discussion. And it's not just Ospreay's comments in Wrestle In. Both guys have been in the media talking about one another. And then recently, obviously, Ospreay's the only one active wrestling, but he's been working in some Kenny references, namely the One-Winged Angel in some of his matches recently as well. And then we've seen even more recent Twitter interactions regarding his use of the One-Winged Angel and some of their comments. And it's very clear that, well, I don't want to say clear, but I mean, something's going on. And either these guys have heat, which I don't think is, or they could either way, but either they have a real personal issue that is not being led to any sort of match, which I find highly unlikely, or they are working themselves into a match and a program, whether that be in AEW or New Japan or both, And I feel like that's extremely likely. Now, as far as later this year, I guess that all depends on Kenny Omega and his health and the timetable of them bringing him back. The most recent reports, even just within the past few days, is that AEW is gearing up for his imminent return. But even if he did come back, in the next, like, let's say 3 or 4 weeks, how are they going to build a match between him and Ospreay while Ospreay's in the G1? And you know what I mean? And, like, there's a lot of moving parts there, and it's hard to tell whether that does happen in AEW or New Japan first. So, but I definitely think that they're working towards a match. This feels very much, in my opinion, like what was going on between Omega and Jericho back before they wrestled in the Tokyo Dome.
Definitely, yeah. And even too, like Omega's interview with Sean Ross Sapp, even before the Wrestle In stuff, kind of being very dismissive to Ospreay and putting over Jay White as like the top foreigner. And so I think there's a lot of building blocks here that they will build to a match. And I mean, there's several great stages in both promotions to do it in. I think it'll be a crime to have a Ospreay Omega match where fans can't react. So that's going to be the one kind of negative of why you probably wouldn't want to do it in New Japan right now. I mean, we are getting the limited cheering in September. So if that does go in a positive direction by Wrestle Kingdom, maybe we will have fans cheering in the Tokyo Dome. And so obviously that would be a great stage for that. If not, I mean, doing it here in America where you can capitalize on fans cheering and doing a really big gate. I mean, you could do it at Wrestle Grand Slam in Arthur Ashe Stadium. There's going to be the Full Gear pay-per-view in November. You have, what's their winter pay-per-view?
Well, there's also the unexplored territories for AEW of working in either Canada or England, where these two guys are both from. And I mean, just two places that jump off of, the possibilities to me. It's like the O2 Arena in London is always a possibility. It's like 20,000. And then like the Sears Center in Montreal, it's like 32,000, something like that. Those are both possibilities as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. And I know there has been rumors of AEW heading to Canada soon. So that could be a cool thing to do, have Omega having a big match in his home country, taking on Will Ospreay.
Also, I mean, let's say if AEW does get the match, sure, they could do it it feels like it needs to be somewhere pretty substantial, not just, in Baltimore or something like that, or the Now Arena, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, it might be smaller in venue size, but they could try MSG. I mean, if you wanted to do a really historic place in North America, I mean, it doesn't get much more historic than that.
Yeah,
but
I mean, also think, Tampa, Florida, Amalie Arena
sure
would be a great spot to run it.
And then obviously, when it comes to Japan, I mean, you could do a Budokan, you could do, one of the other,
Tokyo Dome, yeah.
But I think Tokyo Dome is where it needs to be, probably.
Yeah.
But if it was me, I'd want to do it in both countries. I'd want to make that a major program that I could run at the top for both companies, and draw major money. So the one thing I think a lot of people are kind of speculating on, though, more so than anything else, is like how the realistic nature of what they're doing and whether this is effective marketing or not. And there seems to be different camps. Some people that feel like, everything that they're doing is being pre-agreed to. They're calling each other, they're telling each other what to say, and it's like it's a full-on elaborate work. Then I'm hearing people in certain camps that are like, yes, it's a work, but they're working really snug, and the things they're saying are based in real hurts and real realities and real feelings, not unlike what we saw like in the 90s with like Brett and Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's some people who think the whole thing is stupid because they feel like this kind of build to a potential, program or match never really does equate to eyes on the product or people watching. So, there's a lot of different kind of thoughts at play when it comes to this whole thing. And for me, I'm all about it. However, whatever needs to happen so we can get these two guys to wrestle. There's a part of me that might feel like maybe here's what's going on. Maybe Kenny is like, just came off of a long injury. I don't know how much longer I can do this. Let's fucking call it in. We're doing Will as quickly as we possibly can, you know?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to whenever they have that match. I just think back to the Golden Lovers versus Tanahashi Ospreay match from the Road to Wrestle Kingdom, Road to Tokyo Dome.
Funnily enough, that's my recommended match of the week this week.
Oh, nice.
No, I'm just playing. You already know what it is. It's not bad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's the Ishii match. That's right.
Worked.
Yeah, I got worked. Next question here from Boots and Burns says, all talk about Shota Umino and Blackpool Combat Cup from last week. I feel like these questions are a week late. When Shota Umino returns from his excursion, how should New Japan approach match structure with his father as the referee? I was thinking something along the lines of Kento Miyahara's relationship with Kaohei Wada. Whenever Miyahara is acting like a cocky heel, Wada acts like a disappointed father and starts pulling on Miyahara's hair to get him to stop.
That is something that I thought about recently that I feel like we haven't done a lot of discussion on, and it feels like the natural question, we probably should have brought it up, is like, when he comes back and Red Shoes is like the main referee, how is that gonna work? Do they totally no sell it? Is it something only slightly alluded to? Is it something that, like, how he kind of painted a picture of like there's a particular relationship that's presented stylistically in the matches? And for me, I really don't know. I guess it really would depend in some ways on what kind of character Shota Umino shows up in.
Yeah, I feel like on the Japanese commentary side, I feel like they've tried to no-sell it. I mean, they gave him the name Umino, and obviously Red Shoes is Red Shoes Uno, and they haven't, I don't think on the Japanese side they really mentioned it. On the English side, they have definitely mentioned it a lot, and we saw that whole story play out in AEW with Jericho, rivalry with Umino. So yeah, it will be interesting if the Japanese side does start mentioning it more and kind of what the direction they're going to go. Next question says, as of one of the three people who watches NXT UK every week, I've been keeping an extra eye on the progress of Charlie Dempsey, aka Bailey Matthews. If the pandemic era never happened, do you think he would still be a young lion? Do you think he would still be bound for WWE, AEW in his future? I feel like he would have been teaming up with Wheeler Yuta during the Best of Super Junior and teaming up with the Blackpool Combat Club during Forbidden Door, given that his father is the leader. A young gun trio of Shota Umino, Wheeler Yuta, and Bailey Matthews would have sounded great.
Bro, who the fuck is that?
I believe that is William Regal's son.
Okay, we did not know him as Bailey Williams, though, right?
Bailey Matthews.
Bailey Matthews or Charlie Dempsey. I've never heard those names.
Yeah, I don't think his name ever, whatever name he was using in New Japan, ever got set on there.
I think they used whatever his sheet name is. Like, wasn't it like, wasn't it Logan Regal?
Well, that would be a work name.
Maybe that's the one they used. Because Logan Regal.
Regal's last name is Matthews, I think. Darren Matthews is Regal's real name.
Oh, got you. So Bailey Matthews was probably his his like real life name.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't remember. See, I get Brogan Finley and then Regal's son kind of mixed up a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to say what would have happened with this kid had the pandemic not occurred, you know?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Yeah, he could have still been in the system and have gone through, but clearly, yeah, now he's in NXT UK and guess he's doing his thing there. I haven't watched NXT UK in like 2 years.
You know, maybe there is a version of him that's out there doing the things you're talking about, depending on your views on string theory, or maybe you believe in predestination and things are just fixed the way they are and nothing can change. It's really dependent on your view of time as a construct. You know what I'm saying?
You believe in the multiverse?
Absolutely.
There could be, another universe where Bailey Matthews is the IWGP World Champion right now.
Bro, there's infinite universes and infinite possibilities. Okay.
Moving on to Key Director 3748 says, I'm wondering who you guys think will be the next new heavyweight champion. The pandemic era gave us Evil, Shingo, and Ospreay. Who is the next guy to make that jump? Or is that person even on the roster now?
That's a great question. You know, a lot of the guys that we sort of thought should be champion and be given the ball, and we weren't sure if or when they ever would, when we used to get questions like this, a lot of those guys have gotten title reigns. Ibushi, Ospreay, Shingo, you know? And I'm really trying to rack my brain at this point to think who hasn't had the title that I think is likely to win it or should win it. You know, I mean, I could throw a Zack Sabre Jr. out there, but I don't know if that's realistic, if that could ever happen. And I'm wondering, like,
Evil was the champion. Anything can happen.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I'm also like, is it too early for an Okan? He hasn't even like broken off from United Empire. I don't know. Who's the next guy in deck in New Japan right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, also that they have a lot of young guys in the pipeline, but they really haven't pulled the trigger on them. You know, you have all the LA Dojo guys. You have Narita and Tsuji and Yamura, all those guys on excursion. Omino still on excursion. So there's so many like young guys and all the guys in the New Zealand dojo. I mean, there's plenty of young talent. We're seeing them pick up some guys from the indie scene that people are not really keen on, kind of guys like Fifthly Tom and Bad Dude Tito and Jonah and all those guys. So, I mean, there's tons of guys that they can go with and make a first-time champion. But it's
there's also the outside possibility, and I know I don't want to like put the AEW Band-Aid on every question because that seems like a cop-out. But when you think about, like, say, Moxley and his longtime histories and ties to both companies and everything and how protected he's been, I could see a scenario where he comes back to Japan and it becomes champion for a stretch.
Yeah, I thought pre-pandemic, I thought he was eventually going to be at least a title challenger and definitely probably win the title.
Yeah, he's never been challenged for the main belt yet.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely a possibility.
If you had to pick one guy as like your most likely person right now, though, I think I would pick maybe Great Okan, just on like the law of averages and probabilities.
I think if I'm picking today, I would go with Sabre, just because he's more established. He's had world title matches. He's come so close to beating Shingo and Okada. I think it's very realistical and plausible at the current state of his push and where he is on the card to do that. Great Okan, I would love to see that happen, though.
You know, that's true, and I thought about that, but my main thing is I just don't know if they'll ever actually do it. So I'm gambling on the idea that he's not a guy that they plan to ever put the belt on.
Yeah. I would say it probably, for me, be more questionable if it was the V4 title and the way they were kind of protecting that, but with the World Heavyweight title and just the way that's kind of been booked, and with Evil having it and some of the quick kind of reigns they did towards the beginning, I could see them giving it a belt to Sabre.
You know, another guy, too, that is sort of in that vein of who could hold it, I don't know if they will, but is always on the table at this point as one of the future champions is Jeff Cobb.
That is true, yeah. With his monster push that he got in the G1 last year.
Or, you know, maybe, again, we're wrong and we just need to bite the bullet and pick Mox because, you know, a Mox title reign seems inevitable. Who knows?
I'll tell you one guy who it won't be.
Watto?
Carl Fredericks.
Definitely.
So moving on to Less Commission 7252. it's been 4 years since Gato turned on Okada at Destruction in 2018. As much as we've seen Okada shown more of his personality ever since, a random thought popped in my head. Have you guys ever thought of Rocky Romero being the manager of Okada? I see Romero playing hype man of Okada like he did with Roppongi 3K, and he knows how to deliver amazing promos.
Real quick before I answer that, could Tama Tonga be an IWGP champion at this point? Or like, is that a storyline we're missing out on, and maybe we're seeing the rise and ascension of Tama Tonga, and like we're not even talking about it?
That's I think a dark horse candidate.
Just want to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, less commission 7252. Fuck you. Okay. No, I'm just playing. But how dare you, want to saddle Okada with a mouthpiece? This man closes out shows with promos all the time. What are we doing? He doesn't need Rocky. And I'm all for Rocky getting another paycheck if he needs to put on a third or a fourth hat for the company, sure, and play manager. But I don't see a situation where Okada needs a mouthpiece or a manager or a promo cutter. I mean, he's been at the top of the mountain by himself for so long at this point.
Yeah, clearly he graduated from the whole needing a manager, needing Gato, and that's the reason why they kind of split off, because Gato was no longer really needed for Okada. Like, Okada's a star, he can cut promos for himself, and even for the English audience, he's super over. You throw subtitles on, like it's all fun.
Bro, Jay White doesn't really need Gato anymore either.
I wonder if that's gonna lead to something.
I don't know. The one thing that was Gato's been like the most vocal and ardent like supporter and cheerleader, even when like that whole period where Jay White was stateside. He was still so like, I miss you, King. Yeah. So at least in kayfabe, that would be a pretty big shock. But then again, he did turn on Okada, so you never know.
Yeah, and there is a babyface Jay White run that should happen. So,
yeah.
We had a question here emailed in from Barry Walsh. Says, hope all is well. Was thinking the other day about how people have turned around on Ocon, and I got thinking about the United Empire as a whole. Cobb is liked by a lot of fans and seems too nice, almost to be a real heel monster. Ocon is loved. Franskira seems to come across as a babyface. TJP, despite being TJP, is so good in the ring, he almost has the respect of those who watch him. Ospreay, again, despite being a tool sometimes, Will almost always has the crowd respecting him or giving him an ovation. Hanare is there too. I'm not saying they fail as heels, but it is possible they could go the tweener route like LIJ, and would it be better fit for the group?
I mean, he's not wrong in many of the things that he said there. I think especially with the Western audience, Yeah. I think right now, though, I don't think it's so overwhelming in those regards that they can't still play effective heels, Mm-hmm. They might not be the premier heel group of the company, like the number one de facto. And yeah, they might have some tweener leanings, but overall, I think they're still a pretty effective heel group as of now.
Yeah, and I think they've been getting heat, and I think in America, we've seen like with AW and on Strong, I feel like the United Empire has been getting heat there as well. And I think the more that they're all in Japan together, and the more they're matched up with faces, they will continue to get over as heels.
Yeah, we've never really seen the unit fully together in Japan ever at this point, so it's still, to me, like a experiment to some degree.
Yeah, definitely. But I think definitely Ocon might end up being in that could end up in that tweener role just with his popularity, and how much the crowd has been taking to him. They might have to go tweener or even turn him.
Maybe,
but we'll see. But that wraps up the questions for this week. Let's close off here with recommended match of the week. So last week for the recommended match, I chose Wrestle Kingdom 5 Shinsuke Nakamura versus Go Shiozaki.
Yeah, I went and watched this match, and I feel like I've seen Wrestle Kingdom 5 before. Yeah, I haven't seen every Wrestle Kingdom, even though I seem like someone who probably would have. I haven't seen all of them, but I've definitely seen. I know I've seen the main event of this evening, and I feel like I might have seen Go Shiozaki versus Nakamura before, but whether I'd seen it before or whether I hadn't, this felt like an entirely fresh experience for me. I didn't like read any previews or look at any scores or anything before I actually just turned on the match. The match is very short and simple. It's like sub 15 minutes. And, the one thing I do know is that Wrestle Kingdom 4, Go Shiozaki, considered like one of the young aces of Noah at the time, wrestled Tanahashi in an ace versus ace dream match and lost. So then now he's coming out the next year, Wrestle Kingdom 5, and wrestling the other, considered top dark ace sort of character in the company at the time, Nakamura. And both of those guys like had something to prove, and they told an incredible physical, short and concise story in the Dome. And, early on, just a lot of very realistic grappling. It seems like Nakamura sort of has the better there. And right when he's about to turn things on and start to, do the types of strikes that are trademarked to him that we've come to know and love from him, like Go Shiozaki's like, fuck this, picks him up, throws the dude into a post, fucks his knee up, starts chopping his knee, starts kicking his knee. And it's a really smart and sound strategy from Go, because he's taking away his number one weapon, I almost called it the Kinshasa, the Bombaye knee. And he takes like almost the whole first third of this match just with lots and lots of chops and submission attempts. And this match is also interesting in the sense that there's very few wrestling moves. It's a lot of just strike exchanges, or not even exchanges. It's like laid out to where one guy is on top and he's just beating the shit out of the other guy, and the other guy's just kind of taking it. At a certain point, Nakamura gets the momentum back. He starts laying in his own strikes, and then at a certain point, everything just devolves, and these guys are just going back and forth, taking control of the match, just, fighting with one another. Tons of suplexes, tons of chops, tons of kicks, knees, elbows. Very, very hard-hitting match. I enjoyed this, like, a lot. And then, going towards the tail end of the match, it seemed like Go was doing everything in his power to put Nakamura away. Big maneuver after big maneuver, and Nakamura just kept, kicking out of everything. And then at the very, very tail end of the match, suddenly out of nowhere, Nakamura just lands a Bombaye and puts this guy away. One Bombaye, like he guts through the performance, but he gave a lot to Go. Even though Go lost, he gave a lot to Go. Go looked great. I enjoyed the match a lot. I'd probably go, I don't know, 4.25, 4.5, something like that.
Yeah, it was an awesome matchup.
Yeah, the thing is like, it was almost a perfect match. I know I'm not, like, say, going 5 stars and putting it in that high, lofty, all-times type of situation, but I mean, it was perfect for what it was supposed to be and how it was, and I was so entertained. And I mean, it's a sub 15-minute match, so I mean, anything that's like sub 15 minutes and 4 or above, like, you're talking about a really, really great match. So yeah, I thought this was awesome, and even though I might not have remembered it from before, I definitely will this time.
Nice. Then for the excursion match of the week, you chose Pac defending his All-Atlantic Championship against Shota Umino from Rev Pro, which also aired as a part of AEW Dark last week. So check this one out. I thought this was a very good match. I think probably a little bit lower than some other raters and maybe the consensus. Overall, I went 3.75 on the match.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, again, I thought it was a good match, but I feel like, sometimes we get Pac, who's not going out there to have
Right.
to have a 5-star match. You get a Pac who knows how good he is and knows he can kind of, rest on his laurels a little bit. And I felt like Pac was spending a lot of time like interacting with the crowd, because the crowd was like singing a lot. The crowd was super behind Umino, and there was a lot of interactions with like Pac in the crowd. I don't feel like he came out there to be like, all right, Umino, let's have this match of the year contender. It was like, let's have a good little match to close this show out in the first defense of this All Atlantic title. And that's what it was. Pac was in control of most of the match, getting the heat on Umino. Umino did a good job selling. We've already said in Forbidden Door, like, Umino is back in great shape. I think he's really picking up on kind of how to build up some fire in the matches. And I think the one thing that's really missing from Umino that we have not seen yet is kind of the closing stretch of a New Japan main event style. Like, I feel like all the matches he has are like very good for the beginning part of a New Japan main event. But we really haven't seen him kick it into that second gear. Like, we haven't seen like, all right, that Okada sequence of like reversal,
Right.
all that kind of stuff you would get in like the second half of a main event. And I don't know if it's a thing of where he hasn't been given that chance, or he just hasn't developed it yet. Because I feel like a lot of his bigger matchups lately, he's kind of been on the end of where he has to sell a lot. I'm thinking back to like the Jay White match and some of the other matches he has in Rev Pro. I think he does a lot of selling and doesn't necessarily get a lot of opportunity to have that big kind of closing stretch. Sometimes he's kind of in that underdog role, and he definitely was in that underdog role here in this matchup of Pac being the veteran, being an established Rev Pro guy, being an AEW guy. But yeah, had some good offense there towards the end. Pac caught him in the brutalizer submission there, got him to tap out in the middle of the ring. Fun matchup. Like I said, I went 3.75. I know some people have gone 4 stars, but for me, I just felt like I know when Pac is not giving it 100%. Not that he was, being lazy or not doing good work, but again, he wasn't going out there to like, let's absolutely blow the roof off this place and have a match of the year contender.
Yeah. I did hear that there was a recent Michael Oku versus Shota Umino match where Shota sort of kind of leaned into a heel role and kind of experimented with that a little bit. And they said the match was very good, so, or at least that's the report I heard. So
nice. Let's give our picks out for this week. So for me, for the Excursion match of the week, we're going to go with the GHC heavyweight title match from this past weekend's Noah Destination 2022. Satoshi Kojima defending the GHC title against Kano.
Nice. And I've pulled out a dirty gem from way back. It's not on New Japan World, but I found it. And it is the second and last matchup in singles competition between one Tomohiro Ishii as he takes on Daisuke Sekimoto. Sekimoto, he's not a New Japan guy. That's right. This took place on New Japan. Lockup. Lockup is one of New Japan's many, at this point now defunct/failed, sub-brands of the 2000s era. And if you're not familiar with Lockup or Wonderland or, Never, do your research. No, but in all seriousness, Ishii versus Sekimoto, they only wrestled twice. And this was the second match that they had. So, and that's from November 24th, 2007.
Nice. Yeah, looking forward to checking that one out. You put this earlier on the chat last week with me, you, and Samsa, and so yeah, really looking forward to checking this out. I know it's an early Ishii and Sekimoto, but I can still imagine that it still is a great matchup.
Oh, it absolutely is. And then if that doesn't satiate your full appetite, there's supposedly an even better first matchup between these two from Big Japan in 2005.
Nice. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here this week. Next week, we'll be back to review the nights of G1 that'll be happening this week. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. Follow the network at Social Suplex. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also can find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Y'all just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences Podcast with Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. The AEW Match Guide Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam, which is back now with their second round of the match guide, so make sure you check that out. Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiba.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.